How are you, man? Good evening, everybody. Welcome. It's good to see so many people here. A lot of stuff to do tonight. Today is Monday, October 6th, 2025. It is 7 p.m. and I'll call this meeting of the New Shoreham Town Council to order. Do we have any public comment tonight? Chris? He had his hand up first.
I only had three of these. Because the printer went out.
Yeah.
When you're done, can I go for the record, please? When you're done, can I go for the record, please?
That's the third one. The third one will go to the town clerk at the end of this. My name's Christopher Warfel, Ebbets Hollow, Block Island. So before you two of those two copies, I have attached a document that provides images of the Block Island Medical Center ground-mounted solar arrays with serious and potentially lethal safety concerns. Information about this system was provided to you on September 16th, 2025. To date, I have not had any meaningful responses from the town except planning, who stated they had no enforcement capability and would not even undertake a site visit. Given that I've had no response, I have decided to provide these images to the town so the town cannot claim ignorance. You now have them, and if you have expertise in this area, you can readily see the issues. I have developed a 9-page table of violations, concerns, etc. regarding the system. I predicted in my letter dated September 16th, 2025, that I would be subject to retribution, etc., and that has occurred. BIPCO made derogatory statements to the Rhode Island PUC and accused me of trespassing. The Block Island Medical Center chair accused me of trespassing. The town has been silent despite attempts to get an action plan to remedy the situation. And if you recall, in my first letter to you on September 16th, I went to that site to get one of my dogs who likes to go up to that area. I don't think that's trespassing. This approach is not problem solving, as indicative of a failed management and oversight situation. The building department, which is under town management, has not responded. The town manager has not meaningfully responded. The current situation with the system cannot remain as is. The town is almost completely responsible. I asked you to identify the system to the public, and you did not. My attempts to review the town's liability insurance policies were shut down. My first concern is the safety of the community. And as you have been informed, this situation exposes the community to potentially lethal conditions. Another concern is who will be held responsible financially and performance-wise if an injury or death occurs. I think this would be gross negligence, but is a matter for lawyers and insurance companies to decide. Do we really need to get to this potential point in time? The taxpayer should not be financially liable for this misconduct. I hypothesized that this was not a unique situation. I long felt that BIPCO's programs had no expert review, and I confirmed that by looking at another system after this one came to my attention. Similar issues existed, except this time an unsecured safety switch was even more potentially lethal than Block Island Medical Centers. I once told a state renewable energy program that I would shut down any system using these switches if I ever found them unsecured after finding one next to a child's playpen. I got fired, and I have zero regrets. 6 years later, the National Electric Code made clear that these switches must be secured. There's a way that you can enter these comments to the National Electric Code for the code making panels. They accepted this information, and now it's in the code. I've always stated that I try to bring codes, not solutions, sorry, not just problems. You have failed to act. Therefore, the onus is on the town to Shore 'em. I will pursue state and federal remedies if the town does not publicly address this matter and develop a plan for remedy.
Thank you, Chris. Cindy?
Hi, my name is Cindy Pappas from Lakeside Drive. Just had a question of the council and some opinions on my part, and wondering if the council has any appetite or any opportunity to weigh in on the situation. In my circles, there's a lot of talk about the upcoming tax, Taylor Swift tax.
Yeah.
So I don't know how other cities and towns are reacting. I certainly haven't heard anybody who's in favor of it. While I think it was well intended, my concern is that it's going to have some pretty negative unintended consequences. It's a done deal. I have no idea of the legislative process, if there's any opportunity to request a repeal, if there's any groundswell in Rhode Island, if people are interested in that, or failing that, an amendment to this. My concern is that the $1 million threshold is too low, that a minimum of a $2 million threshold would be much more acceptable. And secondly, if this tax does continue to gain momentum and not get repealed, if there's any way for Block Island to forcefully lobby that whatever funds are generated on Block Island actually come back to Block Island. The money, as I understand it, I could be misinformed, but I believe that the money raised from this tax will go to the state of Rhode Island, hopefully to undergird the affordable housing needs in the state. I just think it would be much more palatable and much more fair if the cities and towns get the revenue that they generate from this to go back to the cities and towns. So I don't know if the lobbyists have any insight or where the town council sits on it, but as a private individual and business owner, I would urge that we investigate if there's any chance for amendments.
I'm not supposed to engage during public comment, but I think if you've watched our meetings, there's similar concerns from all 5 of the members of the council. So perhaps we can agenda it and see what the potential action items might be.
Yeah, and I'll have some updates to share with you
Wonderful.
as well. It may be happening in the upcoming session.
Terrific. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Cindy. Any other public comment? No? Terrific. Our consent agenda. Any issues? Can I have a motion to?
Motion to approve.
Second. Can I have a second? Can I have a second? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. We have appointments to make, guys. Oh. They're gonna say. First is to set membership numbers and terms for the Age-Friendly Community Task Force. Is Al, are you gonna tell us what we need to do, or are you gonna, like, it was, I know we have this note, but you want, or is this is this
Yeah.
Millie?
Yeah, I'll take
I'm
this one.
sorry, Mill.
Okay, no, that's
I'm a
fine.
kid.
So
So it
you
was
did-
you.
yeah, so you did adopt a resolution this summer to engage in this program. And part of that does include populating an age-friendly community task force. After conversations with Allison, think that probably 7 might be a good number for that. And just a 2-year staggering terms would be appropriate.
Okay.
Has there been any conversation about the fact that, you know, for this community, we've got the senior advisory, we've got Allison, you know, we seem to have a plethora of committees.
Yes. So the answer to that is yes. We've had those conversations. And there may be a, you know, a future alignment or realignment in which the two committees either get merged. But I think at this point there, you know, we are going to start because there is a separate charge for both committees.
In other words, is it mandatory because we adopted that resolution?
I,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what, as I understand it.
I think it's one of those things that if you bought into AARP's program, you have to have this. I think Nancy's question is a good one because I want this to be viewed because it is as a very positive thing, not taking it away from anybody. So 7's fine with me, but you know, the issue, I assume we'll hear very quickly. If 7 isn't enough.
Do we need to decide on a breakdown of who would be on the committee or just leave it at this for right now or?
Right. So at this point, we would just be beginning the advertising phase of this. So you'd be establishing the membership tonight, the numbers tonight. And we would advertise and then within, 30 days, assuming you have some applicants, then you could be appointing that time.
Great. Can I have a motion to set the membership number for the age-friendly community task force at 7?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying
Aye.
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 Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Next, we have an expression of willingness from Brett Martins to serve on the police advisory.
Motion to appoint. Second. Brad Martins.
Yes. Yeah, it was Jim Hinthorn did not re-up, so we had a vacancy.
Discussion, appreciating Brad's willingness to serve.
Yeah, thank you.
There's no further discussion. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Next, we have appointments to a vacancy that has existed for nearly my tenure. So we all allow, or I do because I don't have to read this anymore, but I'm actually thrilled that Lyle is willing to do this. I think he brings some practical understanding. So could I have a motion to appoint Lyle Carey to be an alternate on both the New Shoreham Sewer Board and the New Shoreham Board of Water?
So moved.
Can we combine the two? Because we have Joel Brenneman also.
Oh, do we?
Yeah.
Did I miss something?
Yes, he is also applying to be an alternate. I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yes, combine the two. I'm sorry, I didn't see his. Was that not in our, wasn't on our quick fix?
Yep.
I didn't-
Huh. So can I have a motion to appoint Joel Taylor and Lyle Carey with our great thanks to the New Shoreham Sewer Board and the New Shoreham Board of Water?
So moved.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Sorry for that snafu. That was weird. We have the sad duty of accepting Persephone Brown's resignation from the school committee. Persephone has served for a number of years, and I always felt for me was a sort of go-to person for kind of calm and rational thought and analysis about school-related things. When she told me she was doing this, it's one of those things where I totally understand, but I'm also really quite sad. The way that our charter works is that the town council actually appoints someone to serve on the school committee until the next election. So we would be appointing someone basically for a year until the election next November. So if you're interested, or you know anybody's interested, or you want to recruit somebody, those should go to you, Millie. Those ideas and thoughts should go to Millie with statements of interest. I haven't really thought about process in terms of whether people should be here so that folks can ask them questions. We'll see. But if we could do a letter from the members of the council to Persephone thanking her, I'd really appreciate it.
And instead of just names to Millie, can we get a letter of interest
Yeah,
for
I mean,
people so that would give us some background rather than have to?
Otherwise you could really mess with people.
Were there other candidates? Were there other candidates that ran for the committee or?
I don't think. we
Not
had
this
it.
pat, no, actually not.
No.
Here's,
Not this past election, thank goodness, but the two elections before that, the committee was filled by writing.
Okay.
Right?
correct.
So there we go. We do, notwithstanding our moment of great shining success a few minutes ago, have a number of vacancies. One is the Commission on Motor Vehicles for Hire, which now becomes our longest standing vacancy. Coastal Resilience Committee for a term expiring December of 2027.
Is your microphone on?
It's not. The aforementioned Age-Friendly Community Task Force. That's a really important one as we look and reshape. And then finally, of course, what we just mentioned, the school committee. Item 4, update from the Coastal Resilience Committee. Judy, Amy, how do you want to? All right, Judy. Welcome, Judy. Hi, Nora. Just identify yourself when you get to the mic. Make sure the green light is on.
Great is on. Nora Clark, Block Island Climate Resiliency Coordinator for the Nature Conservancy. And we have some slides. Millie, if I'm possible. Thank you. Great. So I'm just going to start us off here before Judy and Mike kind of take over. So next one. Thank you, Millie. Awesome. So just really wanted to kind of lay out just a reminder for everyone here who I know are well versed in the Core Neck Road trajectory that has gone through over the last, a long time. But really since 2016, wanted to highlight some of the town goals that involve Core Neck Road, as well as some of the grants that have been kind of worked towards this project throughout the last 10 years or so. And so I just wanted to highlight really in the orange and yellow boxes here that those are goals in the town comprehensive plan and then the hazard mitigation plans, both in 2017 and then most recently in 2025, just really affirming Core Neck Road as a vulnerability and a critical resource that we need to focus on in the coming years. The green on the screen you can see is really those grants that have been given to or one for Core Neck Road received technical assistance back in 2021, and then even further before that in 2016. And then these grants that you can see on the bottom are all grants that are going into the current project, which is the one that is in red to the right of your screen. The last one that I really wanted to focus on and just highlight is that green state application that we were able to, that Allison Ring was able to submit for kind of a continuation of this project as well, and all the funds and monies connected to those as well. And so that's kind of just really wanted to give a timeline or a quick view of where we are at now and in the last 10 years of Corn Neck Road as a critical resource for the town and something the town has focused on for the last good amount of time.
This is what I'm gonna say. For the record. Boy, I sure hope I left myself one here.
Thank you.
So everybody is so soft-spoken, except me. Judy Gray, Sands Pond Road, I probably should stand back a little bit, Chair of the Block Island Coastal Resilience Committee. I'm very happy to be speaking with you this evening about where we are on the Corn Neck Road project, as well as our exciting next steps. Since Hurricane Sandy caused major damage on Corn Neck Road in 2012, the town of New Shoreham has systematically pursued planning, design, and funding for long-term climate resilience solutions and documented chronic inundation, both through planning efforts and through community engagement. The Corn Neck Road Transportation Resilience Study in 2017 identified road design alternatives, and the town council selected a portion of one alternative as the preferred option for engineering design. However, being a state-owned roadway, advancing improvements will require active partnership and funding from state agencies. The town is striving to have design plans in place to ensure that in the event of future storm damage, disaster recovery funding can be used to implement a resilient alternative. Having these plans in place also strengthens applications for pre-disaster mitigation grants. Longstanding commitment and current efforts consist of, number one, Corn Neck Road being identified as a major vulnerability in the town's planning documents, including comprehensive plan, hazard mitigation plans, and the Corn Neck Road Transportation Resilience Study. Two, grant applications have been submitted in response to town and community identified priorities and recommended actions. Three, proactive strategies emphasizing nature-based solutions have been developed. This is an approach that aligns with the major grantors from whom we have received funding, including the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, which I'll refer to as NIFWIF, and the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank. And four, a move from initial planning phases into engineering and design development. And that's where we are today in the design phase. The current project, funded through the Infrastructure Bank Municipal Resilience Program and NIFWIF, was designed to build directly on prior planning efforts and address longstanding site-specific vulnerabilities along Corn Neck Road. The project focuses on implementing nature-based solutions that enhance coastal resilience and habitat protection, reduce storm surge and flooding impacts, and maintain the road's function as a critical evacuation and access route. Thank you. I realized I had slides. Good. We are focused on Corn Neck Road as a thing to protect, but the actions we are proposing are to redesign the space around the road to improve resilience. This is something that does not require state approval beyond permitting. So we do not have to go to the the Department of Transportation and get their approval. However, very much want to continue viewing them as a strong partner in this, and that what we're doing is really supporting protection of their asset. The Corn Neck Road project area, spanning from Old Harbor to Scotch Beach Road, faces increasing threats from erosion, rising sea levels, and storm events. This project was undertaken to assess vulnerabilities within this critical corridor and support near and long-term resilience planning. We've taken a master planning approach to the area's resiliency and to define mitigation approaches, strategies, and conceptual designs for specific project locations. In the words of Mary Anderson, we look at the road as part of a bigger ecosystem. The role of the Coastal Resilience Committee as advisory is to explain the ecosystem and bring in the experts to help us make choices and address questions like, how do we design for a future, for a different future? How can we reduce our fragility along Corn Neck Road within this larger ecosystem? How do we investigate how habitat restoration and wave attenuation and other options fit in and affect this larger ecosystem, which includes the road. We want to provide both you and the community with a framework, as well as a set of plans, next steps that are shovel-ready, quote unquote. We will send the draft master plan to Millie this week to be distributed to you. And the reason why you don't have it in front of you today is because I didn't want to drop a 70-odd page document in your laps without talking to you about it first. And so that's what we're doing tonight. And this is what you have to look forward to. So phase one, we have the Town Beach parking lot, Scotch Beach Road, and the Dune beach paths. Can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, starting with the Town Beach parking area. We focused on this because it was requested. It was identified as a problem by the town. The primary flood mitigation approach for this area targets precipitation-driven flooding through a combination of elevation adjustments, permeable enhancements, and strategic grading. Specifically, the parking areas will be raised, surface materials will be selected to improve infiltration, and site contours will be directed towards designated stormwater management zones. This strategy also mitigates surface water runoff originating from Corn Neck Road, which currently flows into the beach parking areas. While wave runup and overtopping from coastal storm events do affect the site, particularly through a low-lying breach in the dune system adjacent to the beach pavilion, these coastal hazards are considered in phase two within the scope of this strategy. So luckily, or thank you very much to GZA, we have some anticipated costs associated with different concepts. We worked with GZA to develop 3 concepts, including one which was to do nothing. And so concept 1 is to use pervious pavers and a vegetated stormwater. BMP is best management practice. That would be for both the north and the south, or one or the other of the parking lots adjacent to the beach house. Concept 2 is regrading, looking at materials, adding more permeable material, sand, not necessarily pavers, or but just regrading, adding new material, and also sloping the the dirt, so to speak, the parking lot towards a vegetated stormwater swale. Next slide, please. So here, the current condition is in the upper left, and then there's 2 visuals of what it would look like with potentially with porous pavers. So these are that is something that we would have to grade and then install these. The sand gets filled in, and we actually have a water sort of storage system under and around the pavers, and it allows infiltration both into the dirt below, but also it's sloped to run into a vegetated swale, which is in the lower right. Next. Okay, Scotch Beach Road parking area. This area consists of a parking lot with a driving path leading to the beach through the dunes, and is vulnerable to flooding during major rain events as well as coastal storms. Flooding is particularly a result of poor drainage, low elevations in the parking area, which is very close to the level of groundwater, a large watershed area, and compacted soils. The primary mitigation strategy in this area focuses on precipitation flooding and consists of raising the parking area of elevation, increasing the surface permeability, and grading towards the stormwater management systems and lower lying areas. In particular here, it would be from the north to the south, so that the vegetated swale towards which the water would be directed is away from the house to the north and towards the more wild area to the south. Although, once again, wave runup and overtopping from storms may affect the parking area, these coastal hazards are addressed separately through target enhancements on the beach paths. So Next slide, please. Got costs there. And here's current conditions on the left, and here's a visual on the right of what it would look like if we regraded. Here, we did not, in this image, did not use the pervious pavers. Give you an idea what it would look like if it was just regraded with dirt, and then the vegetated swale to the south, which is on the right. Next slide, please. The dune beach paths, so that includes the paths out of the north and south parking lot at the beach house, the first, second, and third beach path posts, and the Scotch Beach path. The dune beach paths used for both pedestrian and vehicular access are critical yet vulnerable features within the coastal dune system. Their primary susceptibility stems from repeated traffic, which disrupts the natural stability and protective function of the dunes. Foot and vehicle movement often disturbs vegetation essential for anchoring sand, while continuous use flattens and widens the paths, redistributing sand and lowering dune elevation. Additionally, users tend to disperse or fan out beyond the formal path boundaries on the beach side, further weakening the system. This cumulative degradation leads to a flattened dune profile, which significantly reduces its capacity to buffer inland areas from coastal storm surge, wave runup, and overtopping, thereby accelerating erosion and increasing exposure to flood risks. Mitigation strategies. So here we have a dune path, and you see in concept number 1 on the left, we are, what you see in blue are those rollout mats. I don't know if you've been to Cape Cod or Maine or Martha's Vineyard or Nantucket, but this is what they're using in those locations. And people stay on the mats because they're so much easier to walk on than the sand. You can build up on the edges if you choose to with sand fencing or not. And in particular, on the beach side, this concept has the fanning out that we see happening anyway, but we're putting a vegetated island in between. So yeah, you can go right or left, but we're still going to have a vegetated area to try and help capture sand and build up that side of the dune. So the mitigation strategies consist of rebuilding dune systems naturally, though through pedestrian and vehicle management, and with strategies such as sand fencing or plantings to increase sand accretion, and seasonal deployment of walking or driving mats. So that is phase 1, which we are taking to 60 and then 100% design. And throughout this process, we will keep monitoring ordinances. Nora has been doing a wonderful job at that, as well as potential changes the town may need to make to ordinances based on evidence-based information. I want to say a little bit about phase 1 because we were allowed to create reserves in the Infrastructure Bank Municipal Resilience Program Action Grant, and we have about $200,000 for implementation of the final designs that reach the permitting stage. These reserves, having this structure allows the town to begin construction on high priority elements as soon as the town is ready, while also positioning remaining components for future grant opportunities. And of course, we're very interested to know about the funding from Ørsted, the role of that funding, and how we can integrate that activity. So let's look at the next slide. Is that dune paths again? Yeah, so here's just a visual of the current conditions above, on the upper left. Below that, what it would look like with the additional vegetation and the blue mats, and some other views of what this could look like if you added snow fencing. Next slide. Okay. So looking to the future, phase 2, as Nora mentioned, an initial funding request has been submitted. We had identified 6 vulnerable areas: the town parking lots, the Scotch Beach Road, and the dune paths. Those are the first 3. but that we chose to address. The second three areas that we identified are what I would call bigger ticket items and the marshes. And the bigger ticket items are just like more expensive, so I'll talk about those. But the marsh is in this category because we are just now establishing a baseline for the marshes through the work of University of Rhode Island's Dr. Peck and PhD student Rico. So we're just now getting the data that will help us make some decisions about the marshes. So it was too early to go in for a mitigation strategy without that baseline. So phase 2, start with the Town Beach Pavilion. The Town Beach Pavilion sits about midway through the project area in line with the natural dune system and is vulnerable to coastal storm events because of its location facing the beach and open ocean, where the dune system is literally trying naturally to be located. I have many conversations with Mike Shea about him shoveling out what the dune is trying to create, trying to connect itself to the beach house. The opening the pavilion makes in the dune also exposes the parking area and adjacent portion of Corn Neck Road to wave run-up and overtopping flooding from storm events. Mitigation strategies include relocation of the pavilion landward and rebuilding of a dune system to protect the building and as well as the parking area. So on the left picture is the current condition. On the right is an image where we've got some kind of mitigation with the bioswales in the parking area, and then we've allowed the dune to grow in front of a beach pavilion, or the beach pavilion has been located, relocated behind where we allow the dune to grow. The second area for phase 2 is the revetment. The coastal revetment along the southern end of Corn Neck Road is located directly between the roadway and the beach and is vulnerable to damage from wave action, particularly at higher water levels. A significant amount of damage to the revetment could lead to a compromised roadway yet again. Future modifications to mitigate against this damage could be to add larger, more uniform armor stone, possibly in conjunction with a beach nourishment project seaward or of an offshore breakwater. And these last two are both being modeled by URI's Dr. Grilli right now. The third part of phase 2 is the marsh. The tidal marsh on the west side of Corn Neck Road is vulnerable under current and projected sea level rise scenarios. They're vulnerable to long inundation times and higher exposure to erosion and damage from locally generated waves, all likely to cause landward, or in this case, roadward marsh migration. To maintain the marsh and help it accrete with sea level, phased approaches such as thin layer deposition, where they literally blow a layer of sand, locally appropriately grain-sized sand, over the marsh, and just enough to give it a little bit of elevation and let the plants grow through. And it's a repeated process. And the idea is that it allows the marsh to grow and rise at about the same rate or more or faster than sea level rise. Another potential solution is living shorelines, the deployment of oyster shells, things like that. Once again, around Great Salt Pond, in the areas where the road would be vulnerable. The town has submitted a funding request to NIFWIF to start the planning for phase 2, just as was successful for phase 1. We're kind of following a very similar path. Beyond Corn Neck Road, I do want to say a few words about that. So our first project was Corn Neck Road, and we were told to focus on Corn Neck Road. The infrastructure bank made it very clear that if we wanted any money, that's where we needed to focus, because we'd done so much work in advance already. Our second project area that we're looking at, subject to negotiation, is Ocean Avenue North, the area around Bimini, Deadeyes, the area that's frequently underwater at king tides, especially if there's a storm in the area. We're currently engaging with a Brown University scientist to deploy flooding sensors to get water levels over the road, and we're looking for funding opportunities with that professor. Beyond Ocean Avenue North, what we would go on beyond that is we would possibly look at a whole island risk assessment and look at different areas and how they might be affected by sea level rise storms. We will revisit the 5 big ideas that we started with in 2021 or 2, which was Corn Neck Road, Ocean Avenue North, Ocean and Beach Avenues, Bridgegate Square, and Marsh Migration. I want to be clear that nothing is off the table. Things like bluff erosion, the North Lake parking lot, other areas where people clearly are concerned are still in consideration, in the sense that we will take advantage of every funding opportunity that comes along, as long as we have a green light from administration, from the town administration, because there's a lot of work that goes along with these grants in terms of grant maintenance, not even just what the grant does, but just the administrative aspects of the grant. So that's a ton of information, and all of it in almost this exact form is in the draft master plan, which we'll send to you and to the rest of the Coastal Resilience Committee this week. As a next step, after you've had a chance to review the master plan, we are ready to meet with you to discuss, answer questions, or whatever you desire. I don't know who said it, but I like the idea that there is not one solution to coastal resilience. There's not a silver bullet, but it's silver buckshot. I thought that was very clever. There's a mosaic of solutions that we can employ. We can test different solutions to see what works best. And I encourage you to visit the websites that are listed on the screen and also on the paper that I just handed you. I want to say that my narrative tonight is literally the work of Allison Ring and the folks at GZA, with a little embellishment from me. We will include this narrative and a link to the presentation in an email to you with the draft master plan, so that you have everything in one email instead of several. And by the way, Allison and the GZA folks are doing a fantastic job of moving us through this process. And by us, I mean Mary Anderson, Nigel Grinley, Nora Clark, myself, and most importantly, Mike Shea. Mike has been essential both for keeping us real and also for encouraging us to think and research broadly. And so I will now yield the floor to Mike, who will present what he and we think are the wisest options to take to the 60 and 100% design. Thank you.
Hey, Mike.
Good evening. Mike Shea, Director of Public Works. Like Judy just said, GZA has been great in these plans. The things that they've come up with, I think, are realistic and can be very helpful for our resilience along the beach there. The parking lot has sort of been my baby, as I've had to deal with it over the years. And there's been a lot of talk over the years of what different ideas of what could work there. And I believe this plan is one that will truly work. The drainage swales, I think, changes the whole dynamic of it. So I just think that's a great idea. The paths, the dune paths out to the beach with the triangular entrances to it, again, a great idea that I think will work tremendously. I tried to emphasize the solutions with the least amount of maintenance. That's always a big issue of getting these projects done out here, or after the projects are done, is the maintenance of them. And with all of these, I think they're great. I think, and I think when you follow through on these these solutions, I think we're going to be successful in our goal in this first phase.
Thank you.
Can I ask a really quick question?
Yep.
So when we're looking at the renderings of what the parking lot with the drainage stuff on it, is
Mhm.
it the same material that's used in that house just a little bit north of Scotch Beach parking area? Like they've got something on there.
The actual selection of materials has not, that would be in the next phase
But
of
it's
that.
like that idea.
Yeah, it's like interlocking blocks or
Okay.
you know, what it's made out of, for example, whether it's cement or a composite material, none of that has been decided. And I want to be clear with Mike here with me is that what we're thinking about for taking to the 100% design is instead of doing the whole parking lot at the beach house in these pavers, permeable pavers, do the south end and see how it works. For Scotch Beach, don't start with pavers. Do the regrading with the soil and compare how that's working with what's going on in the south parking lot. So that even though we have 3 options, we're suggesting that the option that we take to 100% design would be pavers, permeable pavers or semi-permeable pavers for the south parking lot, regrading and bioswale of the Scotch Beach, and then the dune paths with the mats. And another piece of the dune paths, which is you'll see in the master plan, is the potential of rotating, which maybe closing one every and then reopening it after a few years and changing which one so the dune can recover. But I think to start with, trying the mats and not shock anybody by closing their favorite path. But you know, do it all of these. We're trying to do this like in a stepwise way that enables us to test the ideas without making a full commitment to one solution. Is that yeah?
Yes. Back to the grid, to that house you said, that's more of a residential type one. It's sort of the same idea. Yeah, sort of the same idea. The parking lot would be a much more industrial type paver with the openings. And the pavers themselves will be able to, you know, retain water in them also. So it's sort of the same idea. Probably a better example on the island would be the boat ramp down at down by Deadeyes. Yeah, sort of a similar situation. And they're put down in large mats with an excavator.
The pavers on, Mike?
The pavers are, yeah. They're not individual, they're mats. How big the mats are, I'm not exactly sure, but it takes an excavator to do it.
What keeps them, just for curiosity, like, you know, when you get that sand blow and so forth, can they be
Well,
cleared? How does that?
yeah, because what we do now is we do clear the sand off of the parking lot, which there now, but it's difficult because it's all over the place. And we redistribute that sand onto other dunes. But in doing that, we're also picking up part of the parking lot. With the pavers, we'll be able to go through with a loader and get strictly the sand. We'll also be able to run the sweeper over it too. We can control the down pressure of the brooms, so we're not, you know, disrupting the gravel inside of it too. It will skim right across the top of it. So from a maintenance standpoint, it's much easier than what we're dealing with right now. What we do now, it doesn't do a great job. I mean, we get some of the sand off, but we'll be able to get more of it off, you know, with the pavers. It's cleaner to deal with. So from a maintenance standpoint, yes, it's helpful.
Any other questions? I have one thing that I'd love to be disabused of because this work is so extraordinary. But when I look at the work on the north and south lots at Town Beach Pavilion, and then I see relocating or figuring out what to do with Town Beach Pavilion as a second phase issue, it really makes me wonder whether whether we actually should be tackling something around the dunes, and the town beach pavilion prior to putting money into the parking lots. I think it is the elephant in the room when you look at those photographs is, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. I don't know how you decided to phase them. I've been to a lot of the meetings, but not all of them, but that.
Yeah, we really started with the parking lot because that's, the town asked us to. That was we were told to, it wasn't our top highest priority, but we were told to.
Well, it's not mine either.
And I agree. And
then if
and
you-
we've already asked for money to start the Pound Beach Pavilion piece, which will require a lot more community outreach than most of the rest
Yeah,
of what
but
we're going to
I
do.
mean, I'm just saying that it feels like the cart before the horse, a little bit.
One way to look.
Can I just finish?
Oh, please, sorry.
Thank you, Judy. And to me, and speaking only for myself, I've thought about it, answered all the surveys, been to a lot of the
Thank you.
meetings. Until we as a community confront the fact that we need to deal with that, I really do worry that we're going to get storms, and we undoubtedly will, that upset the work that gets done in the parking lots. I feel pretty strongly about that.
So we did discuss that, and the design for the pavers is actually, it's supposed to be able to take the water from the ocean. It just depends on how high it is and how much of it there is. But I don't think that we're looking at a lot of disruption just because there's not a lot of energy in that water once it comes through from the beach house. It's more quiescent, it sits on top. And so we're not as concerned about it totally, lifting up the pavers and really disrupting the parking lot. It just might still be flooded.
I'm obviously
Yeah.
convincible about this and do not fancy myself in any way having enough expertise to make these decisions. However, for me to support this, just for me, I need to know what the plan and timeline is on, because honestly, the Sea Level Coastal Resilience Committee is advisory. I might have made some very different decisions around what the town's priority should be there.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I'm just curious because I kind of look at it as something that should be done in this order. Because if we're going to have a serious storm, moving that pavilion back a little ways and trying to build a dune in front of it is not going to save that parking lot or that area dramatically.
From everything that I heard, I don't know if you've been to a lot of the meetings, but from everything that I've heard, rebuilding that dune is one of the most important
Yes.
things that we can do,
Yes.
not the parking lot.
Yes. I agree.
If you look at the Wheeler Beach over in Narragansett, they're doing even the concessions where the boardwalk is up and they have the dune part in front of it.
Yeah.
I mean, that project they have going on there is pretty extensive. I know part of it was rebuilding the whole concession and so forth,
Right.
but it continues all the way down. And I don't know if that's bulkhead or what they're using exactly, but.
Yeah, there are a number of ways to anchor a new dune. The strongest dunes are the ones that are formed by nature because of the way the wind locks the grains of sand together. The wind comes from all different directions and the sand gets locked in. Unlike when you just dump a big load of sand, there's a lot of air and they don't, it takes a long time before it settles and takes a grip. Vegetation does that same thing. It locks it in. So But they can be done with a bulkhead underneath, to get it started, sand fencing. There are a lot of different, when we get to that point, first we have to move the pavilion but the engineering of those dunes will be part of the phase 2. And it'll be different from what we're doing now.
Is the concept to have the pavilion higher up than what the dune would be? So if you're redoing, is it to move the pavilion up and then you're looking at a sand dune, or is it the concept to move a pavilion, have it up on some type of piers so you can?
What we showed in the presentation was an actual movement of it back, several feet back. But everything's open at this point. Nothing has been designed. We've just talked about a lot of options at this point. Thank you.
All right. Double enders, where are you? How are you guys?
Thanks for having us. This feels in some ways wildly less important than what you guys just discussed.
Christy, just say your name. And
My name is Christy Zent. I'm here with a handful of other double enders.
Kristen Kiley.
Liz Doherty.
Kelly Case. Rosemary and Becca could not make it tonight. So hopefully you guys received the results of the survey that we sent around. The reason we did that was because we have been faced with majorly increased costs over the past few years, and this year was very dramatic. Last year already felt like a major nail biter till the end to get enough money to pay for the fireworks. Simultaneous to that happening, we feel like the show is increasingly lackluster. And that is not to the fault completely of the pyrotechnics. We're on a barge, we're not on the beach, which is the way it is. The barge has to be really far off. That decision is made for a number of safety reasons and gets made not by us or the pyrotechnics, but by the fire department, by the chief, as it's happening. And obviously weather, it's Block Island, is always a major factor in all of that. The results of the survey were not, they gave us a pulse, but they didn't tell us what to do. So basically what we're faced with is it worth it? And that feels like a burden to make that decision on our own. So that's why we're coming to you. Do you guys think it's worth it? And on our own, we don't feel able to raise that much money and to support raising that much money for the show that we're receiving. I will also say we have fielded out to try to find different companies. We fielded out trying to get drones. We've not even been able to get another number. Like no one wants to do the show for us.
Yeah.
No one wants to do it. It's pretty frustrating. So we're asking you either for a whole bunch of money or we're not a 501(c)(3). So something we've also talked about is like, could the rec department do it and get money in a different way? We don't really know what to do. So we're coming either asking for a bunch of money or telling you that we don't want to do it. But we can't just say that. So we would love a little bit of feedback. Like, are the fireworks super important to you? You see the results of our survey. We put it on the bib a few times. We put it on the little Facebook groups. We tried to tell everyone about it. Trying to figure out what the people want.
do you think it would make sense?
What do you guys want?
Do you think it would make sense to form a C3 so that,
I can speak to that.
Liz?
So the reason that we're not a 501(c)(3) is because we're technically a civic league. So that's 501.
technically what?
Oh, it's a civic league. So because we're doing something patriotic, it goes under that. It's a 501(4)(c). So we're a 4C instead of a 3C.
So people get an advertising right off when they
Yeah.
donate.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
The C4 and
Like
the
it's
C3.
charitable. Yeah, it's not a charitable
We're
contribution.
not in charity.
Yeah.
Which kind of makes sense. It's fireworks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thoughts, council? If anybody wants to start? All right, I will. love you guys, love the work you do. Every year at budget time, we are literally dinking around over $1,250 going to certain places. I don't know where the money comes from in the town budget. I really don't. It's not that I don't like fireworks. It's just given competing demands like healthcare, human services, public works, I don't know where the town money comes from. Yeah, I think it would be helpful to me to get a sense of whether there are other similarly situated towns and, kind of what they might do. I mean, the other thing that really, that is a positive about, there are many positives, but one of the positives about the fireworks is I do worry that without a substantial public fireworks display, we're going to get even more Tom, Dick, and Harry's setting off their own amateur fireworks. And I feel like the potential for disaster there is really significant, particularly if we have another summer where it doesn't rain for 3 months. So, that's one of the things that I care about, but I just, I struggle with where we come up with the dough.
I'd like to follow up on what you said, Keith, with I remember when we didn't have the fireworks and, every dad felt, oh, I need to bring some fireworks out in the backyard and between, the safety issues with it and so forth. And for the police department, we're chasing around the whole time. Once the fireworks start, I'd say 98% of those people said, oh, we don't need to because there were fireworks. So first of all, thank you for your work that you guys put in. And my question was, because I didn't realize Leo was getting $40,000 a year to do that. I guess my question is it possible for it to be a landside base that we've had before at a maybe smaller scale or something like that?
We've been told
Nope.
like
No more.
flat
Yeah.
from the chief that he would never approve a land show.
Yeah,
And
so-
so the other element of this is like, we raise the money, we contract the pyrotechnic company, but the rest of it, like the permitting and whatnot, all goes like through the chief, through the fire department.
Is it
And that's not up to us.
Dramatically drive the expense? Just curious.
So
Yeah.
this year,
Yeah.
so this year, the fireworks expense went up 30% because of tariffs. And then the barge expense went up because just the demand, it's a big holiday. And then it's a significant anniversary. So just the cost of everything has exploded for next year's celebration.
Right.
The other thing too, have they actually given Block Island the 4th? It always seems like we're
We're the first.
We're the first.
Right, so some of those other larger communities are getting the actual holiday.
Yeah,
So Block Island's never been given the 4th.
no,
Not-
since we moved to a different company.
Right,
Yeah.
not since we went offshore.
yeah.
Well, yeah.
I think it's traditionally always been on the 3rd, when it was a land show. So I don't think it was on the 4th.
Yeah, the barge, it's hard to get the barge to move because they use
Yeah.
the barge at other
So,
places.
yeah.
So I guess if we had our own barge, maybe.
Why not?
Yeah.
Aren't there weddings that have fireworks?
Yeah.
Illegally.
Is it illegal?
Yeah.
We asked permission.
Yeah, that's good.
I think the weddings, the barge is not in high demand during, it's the 4th of July, so
Mhm.
everybody. wants it.
Not that I'm on social media much, but this year, was there a chance that we weren't going to have the fireworks? I heard that more on the street.
The day of?
There-
Yeah,
of, or like?
Was there funding constraints this year that they weren't?
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Have a large donation come in.
Like days.
Very
before.
last minute that
Yeah.
said they'd cover the rest.
So if that happens, we put
We- yeah.
20% deposit, and so if the funding doesn't come through, then we're out
Yeah,
so
I
it's
see.
$2,000 plus dollars.
yeah,
Was at the end, yeah.
yeah.
And have we thought about maybe shifting it a little more south for some of the businesses in town? Maybe we get some donations from those.
I also can speak to that because I'm looking at I'm taking in the donations. It's the same amount that we get from each business. It doesn't really fluctuate. Even the people that donate every year, it seems to be the same. So I don't know, like, what else we cold call, we send emails. It seems to be about the same.
I mean, the problem I see too, just want to acknowledge that you guys are all volunteers.
Yeah.
And having been a volunteer a million times over, like, your time is finite. You still have to cook dinner and take your kids to school and, the people, it doesn't, I don't know who answered your survey. It seems to me, right, again, just reading comments on social media, the people who are fussiest about the fireworks are the people who are visiting here. I don't recognize any of the names. I doubt any of them have given you any money for those fireworks. So it would have to be there would have to be some mechanism by which to find those people. Like if you want to have fireworks on your vacation, you have to ante up because you're the one who wants to see them. And again, you're volunteers. I don't know how do you shake that tree? Where is that tree? So I'm not quite sure. I guess I'm just reinforcing I have no idea what the.
Yeah.
Mike has his hand up.
Oh, Mike, sorry. Thank you.
Just about every city and town across this country has fireworks displays, and they don't have them on barges. Why does it have to be on a barge?
You're asking the wrong guy.
Yes.
It seems like the issues have started since we've had to go to a barge.
In our meeting earlier today, there's thousands of towns, that are landlocked all over the country, but what we said is they also have mutual aid readily available if something goes wrong, which we don't have access to.
I also feel like around the 4th, there's, burn bans already in effect. And like realistically, like it becomes like a huge taxation again on our local resources. So like we're volunteers, but so are our firefighters and our rescue team. So
Yeah.
that's a huge ask for them, put out a giant dune fire or even worse, or like assist people who may have gotten hurt from the fireworks that are so close. So that's why we have a barge.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the barge makes sense. I think it's good, but there comes a point where, is it affordable? And if it isn't, is there another alternative, and not to dump that on you, because
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for your input. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess it's still our decision. Stay tuned.
Just one question. How long since the Dugans stepped down? How long has this committee been active?
You overlapped with them.
I overlapped 2015.
Yeah.
So that's the overlap with it.
Yeah. You took the torch.
No, I didn't. I feel like the transition between
Yeah.
like the older, me and Kristen,
Yeah.
between the older comedians, now the new group of us, so.
And how much do you get from the tourism council?
Now we got, we got 22,000 this year. In the past, it's been steadily increasing. I think maybe when I started, it was like we only asked every other year for a very minimal amount, but now it's every year it's gone up and up, so around 20.
So it's 18 you're talking about raising.
No, because there's also the parade and insurance and
So
the fireworks is the most, but
I think
it's not the whole.
55 to 60,000 for the fireworks and parade.
So for the parade, you pay for bands to come over, right? And other expenses or
Insurance.
advertising or?
Don't have any
It's a lot
advertising.
for
Bands,
Board of
insurance, yeah.
Yeah.
Bands and
Bands.
insurance mainly,
Yeah.
transportation, you know, boat.
Transportation.
Yeah.
Some of that, they donate some.
Cabs and things like that, like, there's.
Right, right.
That fife and drum corps needs a chartered ferry, you know.
It's dangerous. Hazardous materials.
You guys do a great job.
I'm sure.
Thank you.
Just making sure.
Yeah, we'll keep thinking,
Wish I had a great idea. Ken?
Ken.
Yeah, please.
Ken Lacoste, Black Island High Street. I'll probably regret doing this, but I can't just sit back and chewing on it. Several years ago, when we were trying to rebuild the beach pavilion, Robbie Cluster came up with a great idea, and I championed it, and we were summarily crucified for it. But it was $5 beach parking passes for all the cars that park in the beach at the beach along Corneck Road, both sides of Corneck Road, from State Beach all the way down to Scotch Beach. So many days during the summer, hundreds of cars. If you print out a $10 beach parking pass that you need to have on your car, be able to park at the beach, whether it's in the parking area or it's along the Corneck Road, I bet you could raise $40,000 very easily by June. When we planned it before, we were coming up with numbers like $60,000 and $70,000 after the end of the season. But all the other communities that you talk about having their fireworks, and how do they do it? They all have beach permits. You all buy a beach permit to park at the beach. One of my employees gave me a Nantucket Beach Parking Pass T-shirt this summer. Thought it was hilarious, but he paid $20 or $30 for it, and you could have that as a sideline. That thing would take off, because everybody wants anything with Black Island printed on it, and to have a Black Island Beach Pass parking permit, or to have a sticker on your car, it's just one more cool thing to have when you drive on the mainland. But it's a good way of raising money to use, if nothing else, specifically for those fireworks for the 4th of July and at the beach. And it kind of ties into the beach. And again, it may seem like a stupid idea, but it seems to me like it's the low-hanging
For what
fruit.
it's worth, Ken, I don't think it's a stupid
Thank you.
idea. I think we are way behind on that, on monetizing access to stuff like that. My own opinion. But I think we're in the minority, but you and I are in the same place. All right. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Safe streets. I was just going to say two things. One is, this also is blank on clerk base. The resolution isn't up when you click through. I must admit that when we agended the Safe Streets presentation, I was kind of cynical about it. And then the people made their presentation, and I read the thing, and it's extraordinarily well done and really worth a read. It's really worth it. It is, some of it's eye-opening. Some of it is, as obvious as the nose on your face, but we have a hard time sometimes doing those things too. So if you have, I don't know, it's probably a 20-minute thing. If you have 20 minutes, even just to look through the exhibits, really, really worth it. Extraordinary. It's really well done.
It'll make sense when you see all the new signage up.
Yeah, right.
Let's get after some of the interventions.
Yeah. So we have this resolution. Does anybody have any comment on the resolution?
No. I'd make a motion to adopt the resolution.
Is there a second? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. All right, discuss and act on potential regulation of car rental businesses. you want to start this, Amy, or Bill, or?
I will start. I think we've got
no?
Nick there, I assume.
Is Nick there?
But this comes out of, or to narrow tonight's conversation in a
Yes.
little bit of a way, this is really focused on Bill's question about whether or not the council wants to consider pursuing regulating the car rental businesses, say through a licensing or something like that. We know that they're prohibited by zoning and that we have those 3 establishments that are grandfathered. But Bill, I don't know if you want to introduce it anymore.
Yeah, no, I had a long talk with James also on this, and kind of, we're looking at, and the original concept was, we keep talking about some frustration with car rentals, but it keeps coming up, and it's like, so I think we either gotta address some of these and put it to rest that we can do something, we can't do whatever it might be. So the question that came up was, what are the pros and cons if we do license it? And I think long story short, I think it was looked at more that, they're prohibited and we only have the 3. If we license it, we may open up to more. There was a number of things from there. And then the question came down to, when I was talking with James also was, if a business is, so currently we don't allow car rentals. And by zoning, there were 3 establishments that are grandfathered. And my question came up and I asked Nick, I had asked James if, and I don't know, maybe it would be Karen would know better, if under zoning, because that's our only enforcement, is for the zoning aspect of it, because it's not prohibited. So if an operation, say, had 25 cars instead of 20, what is the recourse? So the recourse is through zoning, and we all know zoning is a slow-moving enforcement. You have time to get notified and so forth. But I said, if they were given a notice of violation, they were found in violation, and whether it was a warning, and the second time there's an escalation, the second time might be a fine. Is there, after X amount of escalation, is there a possibility where that person could lose their grandfathering rights if it was abused at that end of it? And that's something that James had, he was going to talk to Karen and look at that. And I'm not talking about, oh, someone rented 6 cars, let's try to grab a license. But I'm saying, but what is our mechanism to ensure that it's being, from a zoning standpoint, being enforced and not abused? And because if it was a $500 fine, I might say, well, I'll rent them. It's cheaper for me to get a fine than to. So that was one of the questions I think we had at that end of it. But my other side to it was, there's an optics, I think, that a lot of people have. Oh, there's more cars being rented out than what they're allowed or might be. And I don't know that that's true. However, the optics probably aren't good all the way around. So my thought, and I had said to James, and he concurred, was should we have a meeting with the car rental companies we have right now and see if we can address some of these optics, whether it be the number of cars and so forth, and could there be a numbering system voluntarily and so forth. Now, I realize it might be voluntarily, but it might be a win-win for both sides. In other words, the optics is good for the car rental side, and it's good from our end of it also from there. So that's kind of where because otherwise I think we're finding that, the frustration is, how many cars are stored and so forth. Oh, the other thing I had asked James if we could determine if I have a license, whether it be a moped license, a car license, to rent out 20 cars, say, or 15 cars, whatever it might be. How many cars can I have? I know I can't rent out 20. That's more than 20 rented because that's what I'm grandfathered at. But how many am I allowed to have on the property? If I'm not renting, is it 20? Is it 25? What is it? I think we need to determine that because, because there's a lot of, I think it's an unknown at the end of it. So I could say I have 40 cars, but I only rent out 20 of them because sometimes someone wants a big one or a small, whatever it might be. So I think we need to establish or find out what that number is from the grandfather point. So I'll leave that at this point and see if any of the other councils have any feelings about this.
I'm happy to have this conversation, Bill. I'm glad you've raised it. You're right. We get comments. Oh, they're renting more than X. They're renting more than X. They're renting more than X. I don't know. I don't know how you know, I assume people do this work in good faith, but it is sort of perpetual kind of, you know, an annual complaint. So if there's a way to sit down and talk about that, I'd be happy to do that. And I think it leads directly into the beginning of the next conversation, which you and Tristan also put on the table, which is, well, what does our regulation of low speed vehicles look like? Because that's of course not just rental, but you know, traffic and safety and all that. But you know, I think all this stuff bears some looking at. The thing that becomes clearer to me with every council we have is how little authority we have to do anything. I mean, honestly, that's the real frustration, and that's, you know, I think all five of us in the community get at least one question a week around, how come you're not doing something about X? And the answer is because it's governed under state statute and we don't have the authority to do it. Ken remembers this from his years on the council as well. So I think both as a matter of relationship, but also as a practical matter, doing something that's sensible and voluntary always makes sense.
And when you raised that last question that you raised, Bill, is one that I'd love to get an answer from Karen on. Because we only have it under zoning, I always wondered, like, you know, in zoning, especially if you're pre-existing non-conforming, you're locked into what was there. So if you had 2 buildings, you're locked into 2 buildings. If you had an okay for 20 cars, does that mean that on that parcel, you're limited to just 20 cars? You can't have 35 cars so that you have variety, but I'm only going to rent 20. Is there any correlation between, because it's zoning, between the number and the actual presence on the lot?
Good question.
So, you know, that, I don't know, Nick, whether that's something that James was going to deal with Karen, or whether it's something that we should direct directly to Karen to get an answer.
Yeah, it's a great question. Both you and Bill have raised it. I think it's one that can go to Karen because she's the subject matter expert in this. But off the bat, and let's start from the core so that we're all on the same page. You have pre-existing non-conforming uses. We call those grandfather uses that are prohibited by zoning right now, but weren't prohibited in the past. So you have a few rental car businesses on the island. The amount of vehicles that can be rented from those properties, I believe, is between 10 and 20 for each of them respectively. The question that comes up is that 10 or 20 vehicles on the lot, or 10 or 20 vehicles that can be rented at any given time? In the first instance, that's to be interpreted by, from what I understand, your zoning enforcement officer, which he or she may issue a notice of violation on that basis. If a notice of violation is issued, the person who it's issued to, the business it's issued to, may disagree with that and appeal to the zoning board, where they'll have a hearing. In my hypothetical, you may have the rental car business saying, no, we can have 50 cars on our lot, but we can only rent 15 at a time. And the zoning board would interpret the zoning decision in the past, setting that threshold as to how many vehicles there are, and issue a decision. Our zoning official is either right or wrong in issuing that NOV, that ticket, if you will. And either party then, if they're aggrieved, can appeal to the Superior Court. That's the long way of addressing your question, Nancy, but kind of my analysis in the moment. So I think it's an appropriate question for Karen maybe to work with the zoning official to make a decision. What can be done on these properties with respect to how many vehicles are there, if anything? Or are we bound with how many vehicles can be rented at a given time? And the zoning official can simply make a decision about that based on the zoning decisions from, I think, 30 years ago at this point, a long time ago at this point.
Did you have a follow-up? I don't want to interrupt
No,
your,
go
your
ahead.
line. This is I suppose, a variation on that question. Would the town have the authority, and I won't put you on the spot, this is really a question, Nick. Would the town have the authority to establish how many cars get stored on a property? Separate and apart from whether it's a rental car business, or what have you.
I think one issue you may run into with that is that sounds like a zoning restriction, and if you were to set that restriction today, you're subject to creating grandfather rights. So if somebody had 50 cars in their lot and you say you can only have 20, they would be grandfathered today in having 50 cars in their lot. If they stop that use, then they would be subject to your 20 restriction, but you can't set a zoning restriction right now and expect somebody who has an ongoing use to abide by that. That's why we have those grandfather rights. So if that restriction came from a zoning standpoint, I think you'd run into a grandfathering problem.
And I believe zoning addresses it for unregistered vehicles.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I want to say, I don't want this to be taken adversarial, because I'm glad to see all three car rental people that run them here. And I think that to establish these, so we kind of know where we stand, and then sit down and maybe get together and talk, because at the end of the day, if you know, I have no reason to believe that you're renting out more than you're supposed to. But if there's a way that we can curb those optics so we can address it and it's positive, I think it works out well that the three businesses that are grandfathered have a nice niche. And I just think that if we were to sit down and kind of work through some of these things, I think it would be good for all parties.
John. How are you, man?
How are you?
Thank you for coming.
John Leone from Island Rental. I had a question. If you had a license to operate car rental, would there be a possibility to take that license and move it to a different location?
Well, I'll tell you,
That
No,
is
go
the
ahead.
question.
I think when I had talked with James, we talked about all of if we go to a licensing, all of those type of things that open up, you know, of those type of questions, and then how many other people can apply and so forth. So after my talk with James, I've kind of shifted my, you know, my view of whether licensing is the best thing to do now. At this point, I personally think that sitting down with the current holders of the grandfather, see if we can work out some of these things I think would be the next step.
But I don't think you
Because-
can move a grandfather
Well-
use to another piece of property.
Well, currently now, not to interrupt, you know, we're also licensed by the state, you know, to operate. So, you know, basically with the, you know, when you rent a car, you have to pay sales tax and all that. And we also have a license to, you know, operate like the moped license, motor vehicles through the state, you know, as a license. So per se, if you were a grandfathered operator and you had this going on for 20, 30 years, you know, like you were saying, and you wanted to take that one license, say it was for 20 or 10 or whatever it was, and have the ability to move it to a different location.
But it's
I don't think you can move a pre-existing non-conforming, which is what you are, to another piece of property.
Okay.
I don't
Okay,
think
well,
that-
I don't, I'm trying to get it, the fact of, whether it's a license on a.
John, are you saying if
lot
we had
system?
if we had a license instead of it being zoning, could you maybe move it? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, in other words,
okay.
I'm trying to understand the whole process, you know, you
So-
have.
So my understanding of it, for what it's worth, is you, whatever, let's take our property on Beacon Hill Road, is an acre and had a 50,000 square foot house on it. That predated zoning. Okay. Then they rezone, Beacon Hill Road. We are non-conforming. We couldn't buy another piece of property and move our 50,000 move our 50,000 square foot house to another property because it was grandfathered at that place.
Right. But I'm talking more like commercial zoning, like the district of commercial, not moving it to residential or
Yeah,
anything like that,
we-
just a
we
commercial.
changed The zoning ordinance to permit car rentals, which we don't permit them. The only reason that you guys have your license is because it has been happening since that it predated that ordinance. Does that make sense?
It makes some sense, and I'm trying to think.
Whether it makes sense, but it's
Yeah,
true.
I'm just trying to figure out, like, if you have a license to operate, I guess it's more of the lot, but I mean, if it's a commercial lot and you have a license to do 10 or 20 or whatever it is, why couldn't they be like an amendment to that ordinance? And I don't think it would be anything crucial. It won't add the amount of cars. It would just give the right to that person instead of being hang tied to a person that has a lease or anything like that, that we can move it to a certain location and that's it.
Well, I think, Johnny,
Yeah.
I think currently there's only no one with a license to come in and rent cars
Mhm.
unless it's on one of these 3 properties that only allow that.
Okay.
So if we were
Yep.
to change that, we're opening up the door for
Mhm.
more rental. And I think at this point right now, you have a license to rent. If I go get a license to rent cars, I can't rent them on Old Town Road or whatever. But
Mhm.
if the property you're on decide to lease to me, then I would be able to lease it there. So it's
Okay.
restricted just to the property. And I guess that was one of the things after talking that I have my reservation on the license.
All right. So basically, the property owner is the licensee.
The property owner is
Is the
person
licensee, right,
Can,
so,
that's the only
Yeah.
property that can.
Right,
rent a
okay.
cars from lease.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you got to continue
Yeah.
that use. So if somebody else bought the
So,
property.
yeah, so if you personally hold the license, but the property owner is somebody else, doesn't make any difference. The only place that you can exercise that license is on that property.
Right.
that
Okay.
was
No, because I mean,
so-
currently through the state, we have, operation of, car rental, in that license with that company's name. But it doesn't have the property or anything to do with
Yeah,
that. And
doesn't have
I,
the place to
yeah.
operate it except where
Yeah.
you are.
right.
Yeah.
And I mean, we do, list various locations, and that's what they require you to do, and that's that. But, I was just asking the question
Mhm.
and I'm understand the answer.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
regardless of what
Yeah.
is licensed by the state, it doesn't override our zoning prohibition.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay.
you are where you are because that predated our banning.
I do understand the pre-conforming, this and that kind of rule. I'm just trying to understand if you have a license for that and you've been doing it for many years, why couldn't you move it? It's not adding more cars. You know what I mean? It's not giving more licenses. It's just adding, a different location. It's,
a Location.
Yeah, I
You
know.
can't increase your location.
Okay.
Well,
I'm just
so
trying to-
that's a good question because you just said you're operating at several, at different locations right now. Are you renting cars at more than one location?
Well, we currently operate 2 out of the 3. One over at the boat basin and one down at the Philippi Zone, that license down at Ballas.
Yeah.
That's a rental agreement with that.
Are those the only 2 places that you're renting cars from though?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the only ones that are allowed, right?
Yeah.
And Ken,
Yeah.
thank you,
I
John.
mean, we advertise for different things, but still all the rentals are being placed there. It's like anything. You can advertise online. You can say, whether you advertise on a different property or online or whatever, to me, it's just advertisement of that, but not the physical rental takes place on that property at that location.
So it probably makes sense, to get a firmer answer from Karen. And then regardless of what that answer is, to kind of try to set up a conversation and at least discuss the options and see what the town could be persuaded to change or not change and what you folks are concerned about.
Mhm.
So this
Okay.
is just the beginning of a conversation.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you, John. So our conclusion on this agenda item is we're gonna work on coming up with a few ideas and then schedule a meeting with the license holders.
Yeah, I think I'd like to, hear back from
Karen.
Nick James and Karen as to, I think the big question is how many cars can be on the lot? And the question we get those answers back, and then we can, once we have that, then maybe we can ask the car rental if they would sit down and we can kind of brainstorm some things that would be in both sides' interest.
Terrific.
Do any of the license holders, Johnny, do you want to answer this question? How many rental cars do you rent out of those locations? Since you're in here.
One of the locations is 20 and the other is 10. Okay, the one at the boat basin is 10, the one at down Ballards is 20. And I heard the discussion on how many cars and stuff. When you look at the location down at Ballards per se, okay, the minute you turn your eyes, there's another car there. So it might be portrayed as, well, God, look at all these cars, but most of the cars are people that just park there or people that are permitted to park there. It's not all rentals. It's like, the deal like an interstate parking. As soon as a car leaves, another one goes in. It's like, as soon as you turn around, parking is a very like critical situation, and it's very hard to, stay there and, make sure everybody's doing the right thing. I mean, the minute you turn around, someone just pulls right in, and parks there. So at any given time, there's a lot of vehicles there, but not all of them are rentals. There's just
That's why
other vehicles there.
Numbering system
Yeah,
would
there's
make
a lot of
sense. It would
Yeah.
really reduce the temperature.
Yeah, so if you were to go down there now, I could tell you right now, we can go down and count, there's probably like 7 down there. You know what I mean? But there's probably 30 cars down there, but they're all registered to different people and just pull in and, it's very difficult to like,
Sure.
like police the thing. It's really crazy. But that's the answer to the question. It's 10 and 20, yeah. But I wanted to say that because I knew that was in the discussion
Yeah.
earlier,
Nothing we've said, I know is a surprise to you. I mean,
No, I understand that, but I know where it's going. It's just like everybody's got a lot of different ways in which they're thinking, in terms of the amount of cars, there's times where, yeah, of course, we have minivans and we have other things. So if any given time you have someone calls up and wants 3 minivans, you take other cars off and put the minivans on there. You know what I mean? So, and it's stupid to have like 50 cars when you only can rent 20 because of the cost of the vehicles and the registrations and all the stuff. And I mean, and then the cars that are, just going away, like, just sitting there, like not operating. I have cars that are sitting there that haven't even operated. They just need to, at one point, go to the mainland.
Right.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Leona. Nick, are you still on?
I am.
So we've gone over this. The state issues the rental license for cars, and then
Correct.
Block Island, we're allowed to issue the license for the mopeds, correct?
Correct.
So could we add, if the council wanted to, could we approach the state and to try to get a little control over the rentals? Could we add all vehicles since we're challenged with all these new type of rental vehicles?
Yes,
It would be legislative though, correct?
I believe so. Yes. It's licensing, which is the province of the state of Rhode Island. So that's the General Assembly.
I think that's a parallel.
I'd like to add, I'd like to add that to the future discussion.
So from the agenda setting perspective, that's what we intended to talk about tonight. Because that's what Bill had originally raised, the idea of whether we, as a group, wanted to pursue legislation to secure licensing.
Didn't know that.
What he described is that he went through his own thought process and has taken his support for that off the table. So now, now we've moved.
No, you're correct though.
Sure.
I was talking about separate licensing just for cars
Right.
only. I was not talking about combining our current moped legislation to have cars on. That's a totally different topic, and I'm open-minded to that. I'm talking about, my concern was because that's already regulated the number of operators we have. My concern was that if we just licensed rental vehicles on the car rentals on the island, I didn't want to open the gate that suddenly, okay, we have the 3 grandfathered and now we have 5 others or whatever it might be from that end of it. So the conversation to them to be combined with the number of total vehicles, moped or whatever it might be, I'm open-minded to that on that end of it, but separately, but as long as it's done as one, not as a separate license for just cars only. Because if we do the cars only, if we do, in which James was saying that he saw a lot of problems with it just being cars, just from the cars from that end of it. And the question is, are we opening it up more doors for more car rentals by doing that? Because as opposed to if there's an appetite for discussion of saying, hey, we want to sit back down and say with the current moped operators and say, hey, listen, the restriction we have, can we expand that 35 to be a total of, it can be a combination of slow vehicle, car, whatever. I'm certainly happy to have that discussion. But only with what is already currently in there. I'm not looking to create new car rental businesses myself. I don't know how anyone else feels.
Please, David.
David Lewis, Coonamus Road. To belabor the topic, although we're all tired of it for tonight, in the material that was on Clerk Base, there was the authors of that material to me, was a clear understanding that a vehicle or a car and a lightweight, a low-speed vehicle, whatever we call it, LWV, are all considered to be a car essentially for the purposes of this zoning limitation. Yet nobody seems to have asked any questions on that, so.
Those were not on that agenda item. That's the next agenda item.
That's the next one.
Yes.
Well, okay, just roll mine forward then.
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely. It certainly is. And we dipped our toe into the water of the next agenda item, and it was my fault. Yes.
Well, why don't we go to it?
Yes.
Well, no, wait a minute. Wait, I think Amy's still,
You're on the agenda title.
Well, I'd like some clarification now from the rest of the group. If Tristan and Bill would like to have another conversation then about the idea of a combined legislation. Is that something we want to talk about more on a future agenda?
Let's putting it out for the round.
Yeah.
so the difference on this, if for the rest of, so does it mean that we would be talking about some type of amendment to our current moped legislation that allows, whether it be exchange with allows slow moving vehicle or a rental vehicle?
I guess my statement, I'm just trying to ask if we can have control over what's rented with all these different sizes of vehicles. We have mopeds only, right? The state has cars.
Excuse me, what topic are we on?
I didn't. Let us know.
No, I'm just like, no, because we went from the cars to something else.
We're on the first car matter.
Oh, right, okay. I didn't know because I thought we were talking about something different there for a second, because I had some comments on that too.
I had asked me on the agenda about the car licensing and should we license, not license, and the possibility just to have discussion with the other council people because we can't. And then, and that's kind of, looking at if we were to change anything, it would have to be legislative. And I think that's where Amy, I'll take it over to you.
All right, thank you.
I'm not unwilling to have that conversation.
No.
Yeah, not next week, but Nick, do you want to, I thought your memo was really, I don't know whether you drafted it, but it was really well done. And would you walk us through that?
This is on low speed vehicles?
Yes.
Sure. So in probably, and I'm looking at my memo, so I don't need to guess the time. In June 2024, the General Assembly came out with legislation addressed at low-speed vehicles, and I think thereafter, you folks may have seen some low-speed vehicles out there. Since then, my office, James Callahan, we've gotten some questions as to a municipality's ability to regulate these low-speed vehicles. There's a carve out in the legislation that gives municipalities the ability to prohibit low-speed vehicles in certain areas. Some cities and towns have done that. By way of example, if there's a particularly dangerous intersection or dangerous street, you see cities and towns prohibiting the operation of low-speed vehicles in that area. But this is something of new legislation allowing these type vehicles. I believe it was from a rep out in Portsmouth who authored it. And cities and towns are getting their legs under them, dealing with this now. If there are any specific questions, I'm happy to address them.
I learned what I needed to from this memo, but because I thought it was comprehensive and well done by you guys.
So
I think if you read the state's regulations, it's kind of.
Hey,
Johnny,
John,
can you
come
just
up
use-
here?
yeah.
So-
If you read the state's regulations, it's kind of almost like fitted perfectly for Block Island, you know, the speed limit, because I think you can't exceed no more than 30 or 35 mile an hour. Now, as far as the town goes, I think in terms of that low speed vehicle, you know, there could be certain things like you do with the mopeds with dirt roads and certain roads that you don't want people on. And I noticed recently, especially this year, there's been a lot of people that have them personally, you know, and I don't know whether because the state of Rhode Island says, you know, then you see all these different plates from New York and Pennsylvania, different variations of that. I don't know whether that could be regulated, you know, because it's the state, you know, Rhode Island, and this is where we have the laws here, and I don't know what the laws are in New York or whatever. So people, you know, if you have a registration in New York, could it be allowed on the roads here, that low speed vehicle? That would be a question to ask, I think, you know, putting more of them on the road, you know, that type of thing. Because I've seen this year a lot of them. And, you know, as far as the rental goes, you know, we have our own like regulation, like we tell people, you know, after not allowed on the road at night. So we take them off the road. So we make our own regulations, you know, don't go on the dirt roads. Of course, they're going to go on the dirt roads, but if there's proper signage there, but not having them out at night, I think is a big factor, you know, and then also having.
That's where this started, by the way, John, was.
Yeah.
It was Tristan and Bill raised something that I hadn't
Yeah.
honestly thought about, which is, well, how safe are they at night?
Yeah. Well, I think.
And which therefore leads you to, well, if we decide they can't be on the road after sunset, do we have the authority to do that? You know, that's kind of where that was part of why this came up.
Well, they do that with the mopeds, you know, that certain, you know, time, which, you know, we don't want them out there at night, of course, because nighttime you're not able to keep an eye on things. And then also we put a regulation in there. You have to be, you know, and we might up it a little bit to, it's at 24 right now. We might go to 25. You have to be at least 25 years old to rent one, you know, so there's that regulation as well. So in terms of like different regulations, you know, my company that rents them, I can make whatever regulation I want. I can say, you know, this is that, but this is what I wanted to bring to the town, you know, to kind of work with you guys to like make it good. So, you know, so that they're not out at night riding around or, you know.
So
certain people-
once we get a few questions that we had asked with the attorneys on, that's where I'm hoping that we can have a meeting
Yeah.
with the 3 car rental places. And, you know, maybe some of these things, common we don't have to have a law to get them into effect. That you
Mhm.
happen to agree with it and it's good policy
Mhm.
and we work together on that. So,
Yeah.
Nick, just so I don't have to read between the lines here, if we wanted to do an ordinance saying these vehicles can't be operated after sunset, would we need a statutory change to do that?
Good question, Keith. I don't want to guess in the moment.
Okay.
But just my quick analysis. State law doesn't specifically address your ability to control time. I'm happy to look at it further. That assuming you needed a legislative change, that sounds completely reasonable. That could be changed at the General Assembly level. I don't see it explicitly in the statute, so I suppose the answer for the moment is no. But that sounds totally reasonable.
Okay, thank you.
Well, if in line with what we've been talking about in the last couple of minutes, Nick, if we agreed that low-speed vehicles could be substituted for cars and rented through the car rental business, it wouldn't be the town putting that restriction on. If the car rental businesses agreed uniformly that one of their conditions for renting was that it be returned by, say, 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night, that would be allowed, right?
Absolutely. They're a private business. They can
Yeah.
choose how to conduct that business.
Right. Yeah, and I'd also like to add that since the last couple of years that we've been doing it at the shop location I'm at, it's been, the people are very happy. I mean, you can see these people enjoying themselves, families that come out to enjoy themselves. And also, it really tightened up the accidents on the mopeds. Like we got really, really low rate of accidents because of it. And I think that's a plus for the island, not to have the ambulance go out
I think
for
that's a
that.
good point,
And,
John.
so
Yeah.
I think it's a, a win-win. I mean, as long as it doesn't get out of control. And I'm thinking that whole deal with the registrations of the vehicles, like you got people from all over New York, Pennsylvania.
Got their heat.
I don't know whether that could be maybe you might want to ask council whether, because, it's a Rhode Island regulation, we have our own. And then if you put cars that are from Pennsylvania, they might have different regulation. I don't know. Or what they do.
I mean, we basically have that now we can't prohibit private mopeds from operating at midnight, anywhere. You can pull them in as a rental moped, but if I have one registered in Connecticut, say, it's legal in Rhode Island, I can use it anywhere, anytime.
Yeah. No, I understand. I'm just trying to learn what's going on. I just see that and I'm thinking, and I'm not against it by any means. All I'm saying is that, you're going to see over the time more and more, and it's going to be a lot more private, than rental,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, I didn't know whether there was a way to kind of like, and I shouldn't even, regulate that, how many can be, but maybe that's a case where you can't do nothing about it. But I just see the license, the registration of that.
Terrific. Thank you.
And that's just.
So, yeah, I mean, we have to
Yeah,
have further
you have to have the
conversation.
conversation, yeah.
Our only option, as I read the statute, is to ban them, which we don't have any.
I don't think,
interest, I think,
and
in
I think we
doing.
can only ban them on non-state roads. That's a really important.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a
Although
question. Yeah.
There was a phrase there that I thought, but anyway, yeah, I mean, we should let's get a few questions answered by Karen, and then let's sit down with the three of you,
More than happy to, yeah.
and
Yeah.
have a general conversation about what can be done going
Mhm.
forward, not
Yeah, I
adversarial.
think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
And instead of it getting out of hand, try to let this, that, and the other, so. Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
Terrific. Thanks, John.
So, Bill, have you resolved how the agenda item is gonna read going forward?
You're good with that, Renee?
Got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Amy, do you want to discuss the Coastal Resources Management Council application process?
Yes.
Take care.
So as a preview to item number 10, this has been a conversation around the staff but it's also, I think, really helpful for the council and the public
Mm-hmm.
to talk about and understand what happens when the town receives a public notice from CRMC. Also applies to DEM, honestly. The timeframes for the two are slightly different. We get about 30 days for CRMC and 20 days for DEM when we receive a public notice in which we have to respond. We have lobbied both of those entities to try to extend those timeframes without any success. I mean, that's a common theme from all the municipalities back to the agencies, our time to respond. But so when we get a public notice of a CRMC or DEM application, it usually comes to the town council, shows up in front of this body under correspondence. At that point, the council can say, okay, we see this correspondence and would like to agenda it as a standalone item for discussion. That hasn't happened too often recently, but it has in the past. And sometimes we may need a special meeting to do that within the time frame. Sometimes we can fit it in our regular calendar. But you have that option once the correspondence comes in. One of the other challenges we've been having with the two agencies is when we get that notice, being able to quickly get the application materials. We don't have a solution to that yet. Just acknowledging that it is, again, a challenge that the municipalities are lobbying for a solution for. DEM is changing their system, so we do expect that to resolve more quickly. And in theory, we'll be able to link to those applications online. CRMC, you still really have to call and get the entire file from them.
Can I just interrupt and ask
Yeah.
a quick question, Amy? So basically we get essentially a one pager.
For DEM, it is literally a one-page letter with the plat and lot.
Yeah.
CRMC sends a little bit more.
Yeah.
But again, it's usually a half dozen pages as
Yeah.
opposed to
Yeah.
the
Right.
entire file. So the town council receives public notice, and then it usually also goes through planning zoning, through Jen primarily. And at that point, she filters down through the boards over there in Land Use Conservation Commission. May hold a special meeting, again, depending on what their timing is. And planning, generally the chair decides how to proceed, whether to, again, fit it on an agenda that's within the window or whether it needs to be discussed by the group. They very rarely hold a special meeting for those kinds of public notices. This is still very much in flux. Carlos, Jen, and the conservation chair and I met last week to talk about this. Part of it driven by new membership in conservation and an interest and an engagement that is refreshed with that group, which is great. So they are sort of reevaluating their roles and responsibilities and how to handle these things at the same time. CRMC and DEM are navigating their notice to communities. And so everyone is sort of working on what the process should look like and ironing out the kinks. Another example of that is where coastal resiliency might fit in this process. Right now, they don't. They don't necessarily weigh in. Should they, shouldn't they? They and conservation are having a discussion tomorrow. That may come up. One of the other elements that's still out there too is what the communication back to the agencies should be. So in this instance and in the current landscape, conservation is sending a letter back to CRMC. It's imperfect, but it's what we have and it's an avenue for them to provide their feedback. Technically, they're advisory to the council. So if we had all the time in the world, their letter should probably come to the council as an advisory that then gets filtered up by the council to CRMC and DEM. Again, with the time frame, the notice, and that's compressed period, that feels like a stretch for us right now, but it's probably the ideal goal for how we would handle these things
So
in the future.
sort of on a half measure.
Yeah.
One of the things that would be, I think, helpful for me is having a sense of whether a particular thing bears bears our attention. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of stuff that comes through that mostly, so and this is probably not formal, I suppose, but honestly, I still have not. Maybe Jen is the only person in the town who has memorized every plat. Every plat. Sometimes if I don't have time during a week, I'm sort of not as closely reading sometimes when we get that stuff. So, just to the extent that we're talking about process improvement, that'd be helpful to me. I'm a layman when it comes to a lot of these things.
Well, that leads into the question of back in May, when that notice came from CRMC, there was a draft letter from you that was on our agenda. Shame on me. I didn't closely read the material that was attached to it. Although when I read it after I had found out that some of this was already in, reading that material again, it was clearer that it had been the first time around. But my question is, what was it that when that notice came prompted a draft from you to be attached to it for us to send back in May, as opposed to when this notice came?
So I'm going to answer that with a couple other examples on process, and then we'll come back to your specific question, because there are two other instances where we interact with the agencies. And so one of the other instances where the town is involved is earlier in the process. So this was a public notice, meaning everybody in the world is notified. There are other times where CRMC and DEM actually reach out to the town and involve us in the process earlier. And it's usually when it requires a zoning sign off. And so in those instances, the zoning official, through their process, evaluate the application, depending on the size and the scale and the location and what kind of input is needed, decides whether or not they are then referring that to conservation, planning, zoning for their own advisory back to the zoning official. So this is going to be something that happens long before the public notice goes out. This is CRMC and DEM looking for zoning official sign off. And the zoning official then is referring this to the boards to back up their own process. In a third instance, an applicant may approach the town prior to submitting an application. This is what happened in May. So before even putting in their documentation to CRMC, this happens more with CRMC for a reason I'll get to in a minute, they approach the town to ask for support for this application. So this happened in May with the club. It also happened in January with Interstate when they came to the town for support for an application for dredging. And generally these come to the town because it's a type of application that involves public waters. And so they are engaged with the harbor master over what is being done in that space. They're having involved conversations about operations in that area, and they're usually talking about public trust waters. And so in the example in May, and I need to be a little bit careful because when we get to the next item, I need to recuse. So I don't want to get too much into the specifics of that right here. Talk about process first. So those are the kind of the three instances where the town and those agencies intersect directly. And what I started with, the public notice, is sort of the last step in the process. And I've worked our way back to the beginning of the process where we are approached even before an application is submitted. So does that help?
Do I recall, was there one within the last 6 months or so of property up off of High Street where Sue Gibbons was very involved?
Yeah, that's exactly the example I was thinking of, where I think we were asked early. That was one of the early.
So I believe that was DEM.
Yes. Yeah. DEM.
And a wetlands permit and we were asked for a zoning sign off. And somewhere in that process, in that sort of tier 2 type of work is when all those flags were raised.
And it came to us with the flags raised, right?
If I had to guess, I don't know if either of you were there at the time, but I think the zoning official requested an advisory probably from conservation,
Yeah.
which sort of surfaced all of that. I'm guessing on that detail, but yeah, so that was a middle level 2
I
exercise.
think so. There wasn't, yeah.
And so it's easy to say, we should always do this, but I think we need to remember there are different times and events that happen. We are working on our process for each of those types of situations and trying to establish both the process for those 3 types and the criteria that the boards and the council are using to evaluate their responses. But that's kind of where we are today.
Which brings me back to the question I had about things being on the consent agenda. Because, I mean, I would feel more comfortable largely because there are timeframes involved here. If the consent agenda had receive and act on the off chance that something comes along that raises a small red flag, but there's a time frame attached to it so that we could talk about it right then and there. But that's an aside on.
No, I think that's great. You understand it's a proposed consent agenda. I mean, I think at almost every meeting, we've pulled things off because that's how a consent agenda works.
But last time when I pulled this off, you said we couldn't discuss it or act on it.
Right.
Because it didn't say act, it said only receive. So I'm saying, let's correct that to receive and act, and then
Sure.
we can pull it out and talk about
Well, I
it.
don't think that would be, I mean, that would be situational. I don't think that every single piece of correspondence we receive should be listed as.
No, but if you start with receive and act and then you list them, you could receive.
Then
and
you
if
don't have a
wanted-
consent agenda, though.
No, you can't. You do it. You can vote it all, but if somebody wanted to pull one out of the consent agenda, then they could act on it. But let's go back to the substance of this conversation.
So Amy, the 3 scenarios you gave, one of them was the time constraint, like where it went to say a conservation, whatever, and then come back to the council in an ideal way. So what is the solution to that? Or what do you think is
There's not a great solution for that
because of the time frame?
public notice example, which is where we are in this one because of that time frame. Your options are to hold special meetings, things like that. You have to operate within that time frame and be ready to digest whatever material is available.
Why is that public notice short though that they give out, or is it usually, when they notify us, right? You said the time frame is short. Is that because that's their
time frame.
that's their criteria?
Yep. So if you look at the notice on the club, I think it was dated September 9th and comments are due by October 9th.
Yeah.
I'm just surprised they moved that quickly.
A couple things. One is I appreciate so much that you're working on process because it can always, these things always need to be figured out and they need to live and breathe. The other thing is that I think is very encouraging and is a marked change is the engagement of the Conservation Commission. Really wonderful, longtime public servants have been on that. It's kind of cool the way as you make appointments, the personality and the focus and it naturally changes. So I actually think that's very encouraging. So thank you.
Don't think, I mean,
Yeah.
for that, thank
Yeah.
but it creates friction points in a
Yeah.
good way.
Well, I mean,
we're talking about
You
things
don't
that,
always have to agree.
that we didn't have to before.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah.
So back back in May, when that first connection was made, as to what we felt, at that point in time, did we have enough of a viable conservation commission that it went there at all? Or,
No, and not because they weren't viable, but because at that point it's not a full application. That's certainly something we can think about and do differently going forward. In some instances, when those types of applications have come forward, we've been asked to keep them confidential because they are draft and they may ultimately not get submitted. Obviously, there's always enough material that the council has taken action. So it's a little bit of a fine line, but the council can make that a condition of their letter of support, that we want to engage with certain boards before we submit.
yeah.
That's
and
definitely
I
something that
mean,
we can work on.
like I said, shame on me. I didn't read it closely enough to have realized that there should have been a red flag going at that point. Otherwise, there might have been a different response out of the consent agenda, but I didn't pay attention.
So that's just an applicant's choice if they want to like get some pre-endorsement, help their application go through, which is in general.
It's generally strongly suggested by whom I can't say, but it appears to be a common practice, particularly when you're using public trust waters. You see that in other communities, and you do see in other communities where different bodies of a municipality respond differently. That there's not always a consistent voice across the board. And I think I had said that last time we met, that those two things, yes, we'd love them to work in tandem, but it's also not a requirement that they do. Because everyone.
It sounds like it seemed more favorable for the applicant when they send an application, if they have some of this pre-support. And that's the reason they would do that.
Again, especially when using public trust waters, because usually there's some acknowledgement of that, and whether it's, I don't want to use the word compensation, but some recognition of the public good.
And especially if it comes down to a compelling public purpose.
Right.
I mean, that may be different opinions from different bodies.
Good, Carlos.
Carlos Salinas, Corn Neck Road, here just as a public citizen. To your question of process, Keith, I think, and I thank Amy, she hosted myself and Taryn McGregor, the chair, along with Jen Brady last week, and it was a really excellent meeting. I thought it was an excellent initiative. The spirit of the entire meeting was, how can we best work together? And I think that's the way to always operate, and I'm very appreciative of that. In terms of going forward, I think one of the things that Amy explained is that the town can have different interests than different committees and commissions and what have you, and of course that makes sense. But I don't think that it makes sense for the council to send a letter on a pre-application, especially when it's in sensitive waters, and type 1 waters is sensitive. And so I think it's very important that the town avail itself of its volunteer bodies. I mean, we just saw that fantastic presentation by Judy Gray. Just because we're volunteers, just like y'all, I mean, we have a lot to bring to the table. And I think it's really important. We may have seen some of the red flags, and the council would have saved itself from, being in this kind of weird position of having sent a letter in May of something they really hadn't seen, that much later we see in an attachment B, which could not have possibly existed at the time because it talked about the letter that the town sent. And then
You've made that statement twice, and I just need to correct it, is that the council did receive that entire exhibit. The only thing that was added subsequently was the paragraph about the town's support.
Okay, so the town support was in this attachment B, and I'm not sure the town read thoroughly that attachment, which talked about the fact that this construction had already taken place. And so I think to make sure the process works better is when something like this, a pre-application comes from CRMC, definitely involve your two volunteer bodies that look at these issues, Coastal Resilience and the Conservation Commission, at the very least. Because then you can know, what type of waters you're treading, what kind of waters you're navigating, and the dangerous shoals that this particular case represented. So anyways, thank you all. And that's my strong recommendation to you all.
Thank you.
So should we go on to number 10?
If Amy's finished.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 10.
So I am going to recuse. While he was not in this position in the spring, my brother is now on staff at the Block Island Club and did sit in on the conservation meeting, although he didn't make any comments. So without time to get an ethics opinion, I'm gonna.
Great.
Okay.
All right, so what we have here is a decision around whether to rescind our letter, substitute it for something else, et cetera, correct?
Right. Mhm.
So I'll give you my opinion, such as it is. I think if we were to do something, what I would do is let them keep what they have, but oppose an expansion. I think people make mistakes, if they made a mistake and I'm not a big fan of the asking forgiveness after, but I also don't want to put an entity that has some significant community benefit in a position of having to rip stuff out. That's my opinion.
Well, I went, as someone who uses the recreation area a lot, probably, and you'll surpass me as your grandkids get older, but right now I'm probably
Yeah,
out there
right.
3 4 days a week. I'll tell you this, the expansion has not impeded on anything that I do down there, to be honest with you. And I spend a lot of time in that recreation area. And my concern isn't necessarily what they're asking for. My concern is that it was put in without the hearing. So I don't know that I'm against their the expansion to what they have. It is a change. There are 4 docks that they rent out. But I do think that they should have a hearing, and it should all be heard by the body that the CMC that has it, as opposed to not having a hearing. So
Yeah, that's kind of, I don't think you and I are all that far off. I was kind of like, if they want to apply for an expansion, it ought to be a new, I kept thinking as I was thinking about this, about all the controversy about the country club up on Narragansett Bay, which sort of went ahead and did the work and then came back and begged forgiveness. And, there's something about that frankly doesn't sit right. And it puts people like us in a really awkward position, uncomfortable position, but that's why they pay us the gigantic salary. But I don't feel, I'm over there a lot. I'm not over there as much as Bill is with Rowan and his friends, but I don't think that what they have done has had in any way a significant impact on the rec area. And I really value that rec area. I've used it for decades now with my kids. So I was trying to find something, like have a hearing. That's fine with me.
Yeah, and I guess there's a part of me that says after fighting Champlins for 20 years on this very point, I can't see just walking away from it because it's the Block Island Club. There is something about the fact that, it's kind of nebulous. Did they get did they get turned down? Or did they not pursue? Either way, I think we should send a letter saying that, we are rescinding our approval. We're not taking a position. We think that they should go through a hearing and make their case to CRMC, and that we'll go along with whatever CRMC decides. But I don't want to just forgive what's there. It's sort of, and we went through the same arguments over Champlain's when we let Payne's go ahead with their expansion, even though we said it was entirely different, and I still believe that it was, and it should have been approved, and Payne's made some adjustments, so they should have gotten a yes from us, and Champlain still should have gotten a no. But to be consistent, I think they need to make their case at a hearing at CRMC.
I just want to say for the record, you're not comparing what the Block Island Club has done to what Champlain's was considering doing.
Now, they're both in type 1 waters. They both have to have a compelling interest. And we didn't fight Champlain's because they weren't, a community-centered organization. We fought it on the principle of what the regulations were. It's the same thing.
No, it's not. The impacts were dramatically different. Rob?
Rob Closter, Block Island Club board member. We were not rejected in putting those floats in. Those floats went in 2017, and we did contact CRMC about putting them in afterwards. 2 years ago, we rebuilt our pier, which was completely permitted. At that time, we discussed with them about the float system again, and part of our maintenance assent was that we needed to go back to our grandfathered in square footage, which we've operated the last 2 years at. And operating the last 2 years has been significant. It's hurt our program dramatically. We've had to take out our swim lanes, which protects from all the boat wakes from the wreck area. Also, we launch a lot of our sailboats off of these docks, which prevents wear and tear on the coastline. And we've had to reduce our enrollment numbers because of that.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying I'm against whatever. I'm saying make your case to CRMC. I think they should decide.
Yeah, you just asked the question if we were rejected or not.
Yeah, because that's still, it doesn't seem that clear.
We were never rejected.
So you shouldn't have any problem with CRMC.
It's part of the application process.
Yeah, so you don't have a problem if we write a letter saying have a hearing.
Well, to give it 2 thumbs up would be better.
But you understand why we're in an odd
Yes,
position
understand.
here.
But if according to this regulation, if we do ask for a hearing, we also have to plan to have someone, when they do schedule a hearing, have somebody there. You must attend the scheduled hearing and give sworn testimony. So at some point in time, I think we have to engage Nick or James when the date of a hearing is.
Well, will the Conservation Commission be doing that?
Their letter. I can find it.
I don't know, Carlos, can I ask you that question? It says, if you desire to protest, which the Conservation Commission has, you must attend the scheduled hearing and give sworn testimony. They haven't set a hearing date yet, but was it your intention as part of the Conservation Commission to attend that hearing?
So as a member of the Conservation Commission, I've had to recuse myself because my wife is in a butter. And I do know that the Committee for Great Salt Pond has also issued an objection, and I'm aware of 2 abutters issuing objections to the application as well.
Okay, and I guess, with Amy not here, the procedural question is Conservation Commission is still advisory to the council.
Mhm.
Do we then assume that obligation if we also agree that there should be a hearing and plan to have someone on behalf of the town attend the hearing? Preferably Nick or James, but that's a question we get answered later because there hasn't been a hearing date set yet.
But it sounds like we're leaning towards not taking action. So it would be very inappropriate for the Conservation Commission to go and object in our place.
Well, no, we're taking action. The action we're taking is to request a hearing. That is an action. And so if you are protesting them not granting it, which we are doing without a hearing, we have to be in attendance.
But requesting a hearing is not the same as objecting, is what I'm saying.
I agree with that.
Well, then I would say that we should specifically request a hearing without objecting. That would be and believe me, I don't think for a minute that I'm okay with people building things and putting things up and not getting permits for them and permission for them. Because I'm not at all. I don't think it's
So
cool not to get
we-
building permits and not to go to historic district and not to go to CRMC, all not okay. And yet, as we've just said, apparently we've been living with this for several years now. And it hasn't affected our use of the pond. So I feel like we can object to the lack of process that happened. But to object to what is there feels like we'd be making something up.
So what if we send a letter that said, since we last spoke, this matter has received a fair bit of attention in our community. We would urge you to have a hearing and weigh whatever, make your findings.
Could we, in that letter, like you're saying, say, we're not taking a position, but we support a hearing because of conservation and so
Yeah.
forth? Because I have a problem with like I said, if this hadn't been put in, I probably I'd be like, okay, I don't have a problem with it. So I just think that due process, and I'm afraid that if we don't send something in, then there's no hearing, and that's the reason I think there should be
Yeah,
a
and
hearing.
I agree with that. My thing on this is it rankles me that this work happened without a permit.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? Like that's my thing.
Me too. I'm right there.
I don't have any problem with the use. We're no longer members, but gosh, our kids learned to sail there and it was wonderful. So it's not about that. I do. I'm sure.
60s
Yes.
when it was first started,
doubt.
absolutely.
No doubt. So
But that should be irrelevant to the
I just-
question of
okay.
the process. And, and I don't think anybody is weighing in on the pros and cons of the Block Island Club versus anything else. The process was not followed, and we should let CRMC decide how they want to handle it going forward.
Sure. Something new? Yeah.
Thank you. I think one of the key question to what Nancy just said is the precedent. And it is a very bad precedent. This takes place right at the height of the Champlain's controversy. So it's not like a slight oversight, it is deliberate. Now, I assume that given that the Champlain's fight and CRMC permitting was in the forefront of a lot of discussions on the island at that time.
Be assuming anything like that. The way the council is going, I think, is exactly the way you want to go. I don't think we need invective about what people's intentions might have been.
I'm not saying invective.
Well,
I'm just saying, no, I'm saying there's a context that can't be ignored. There's an elephant in the room.
haven't gotten the sense that we are going to ignore it.
Well, I just would urge you that in your communication or in some type of communication, the council make clear that it is against the building without permitting. Because I think, I'll be happy to be disabused of this. But if a letter is sent saying, we've been discussing this issue just like the terms that you said, but without some type of boilerplate about the council's resolve that this type of activity is really not welcome. And I don't mean the specific activity of the club, but building without permit. I think that message needs to be sent.
But that
would
really,
be for the hearing.
exactly. But that also
Right?
falls on CRMC. That's their job.
Yeah.
So when this goes, let me see, so this goes before them, they're gonna be well aware of that. And that's the reason I think there should be a hearing and they can vet it out at that point. I don't know type 2 waters from 1 waters, whatever, that's that jurisdiction for that. So that was my main reason that because I don't have the concern of what they're doing. My thing is it should be the process. The agency does the process. And I think with the hearing, that process will be vetted to whatever would be at that case.
I would just welcome a clear, unequivocal statement from the council saying it is the council's sense that building without proper permitting is not something that we welcome.
Again, that would be for the hearing, in my opinion.
Okay. I would just hope the council would want to say that.
I think we can couch it, in such a way that CRMC will have all the information on what they knew at the time and what was and wasn't permitted or discussed. Whereas we're still, we're still not that clear on what was or wasn't. So let's let them resolve even the question of, if it was constructed without the proper permits, that should be clarified and CRMC should deal with it.
Please.
Amy Keeler. I am a part of the Conservation Commission. And it annoys me that they did build without permits. But what they're asking for now is an additional expansion, which is, to me, is just crazy. May they keep what they have. I don't see the harm in it. I think it's wrong that they did it without permission, but for them to ask for additional, and again, it's for the hearing, CRMC. It's just, I don't have a word for it. How dare they, after they didn't even get permits for the original. I'm not sure what this hearing is about. Is it for being granted what they have? Or is it about the expansion? Or is it both? I really am unclear about that, Carlos. I'm not sure.
My understanding is that it's a single application
It's a single application for what?
for the expansion.
For the
And-
$4,000,
And
4,000.
presumably the expansion sanctions their existing layout.
So for 4,000 square feet expansion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. And I'm just a little disappointed that people aren't objecting to this as far as the expansion.
Mhm.
I'm disappointed that you don't have a stand on this. But anyway, that's really all I have to say.
Sorry. Rob?
I just want to clarify, the application is asking for what we put in originally without a permit.
Gotcha.
But the application reads, the applicant is seeking to expand its existing previously permitted CRMC residential boating facility.
Yes, because we have a grandfathered square footage in there
Right.
pre-existing to CRMC.
So you're asking to expand that.
To expand the original grandfathered to what we put in, which was not permitted.
So when we look at these maps,
That would just, let me ask this while
Thank
it's
you.
fresh. Is it just the floating structure?
It's only floating,
So
yes.
the 420 zone, which
Yes.
there would be boats in there anyway.
Sailboats, correct.
Sailboats where the
Yep.
property is. Does that also make that handicap? Is that why that's like that? Or it's just ease of use for the 420s to launch?
Ease of 420s to launch. So you're not off the shore putting the damage on there.
Okay, so just so everyone in the room, we're just talking about that little bit. It's plastic, right? Like a jet ski dock?
It's a wooden float.
And float. And then the other piece, plastic, would be the swim section, which is a U or a square?
It's a U, correct.
Plastic.
Plastic.
So we're totaling that plastic structure. The 420 are Opti, same boat?
Different boat.
Different boat, smaller ones.
Yes.
So now those are launched because that dock's not in there. They're launched from the beach.
They were, yes.
And then
this past 2 years, we launched a handful of the 420s from the shore too, because to meet the square footage that CRMC allowed us for the already assented square footage, we had to remove some of the 420 docks, and we had to launch boats off the shore because of that.
And then
well, you had to remove docks that you didn't have permission for.
Correct.
Yeah.
For the past 2 years.
I just wanted
Yes.
record.
Yes. Yep.
the T pier, the T,
The T, yep. We had to remove a section off of that as well,
just one section of the
Yep.
6.
which we keep our sailboat, the Taz, the Opti, Sunfish is on. It also provides a drop off, pickup, and lesson area on the docks there, and a swim area
And then the pier is on the north side.
on the north side for members' boats. Correct.
Did those poles replace the old haul outs that were there prior
Correct. Used to be on a pulley system.
from those current, on the north side, they used to be a pulley?
Yes.
So I think I want to clarify the same thing because I was reading this as if these bullet points here are things that are done but not permitted. Amy's reading it differently. I want to clarify this. So shifting the existing main dock seaward approximately 12 feet, that's already been done. Or
No,
does-
that's a request to do.
That is a request to do, so that has not been done.
Correct.
So that is new.
That is new. Correct.
Installing a new 4-foot by 20-foot gangway to support the main dock.
So that would be a new gangway, a longer one, in order to meet that, which we currently have a gangway there.
So installing a 420-foot dock.
420 dock, that's a
420
420 is
dock.
the type of boat.
Okay, but that exists or?
It does exist. But it's enlarging it. Making it longer to allow more boats on shore or on the dock.
So that is a change that's beyond what you guys already did.
Yes, correct.
Installing a small vessel dock, including main and finger floats. 640 square feet.
That's on the north side.
And that's something that you guys currently have, or that it would be an improvement beyond what you have?
It would be an improvement.
Installing a swim float. So explain what that is.
Swim float, it's horseshoe cans that allows the children or members to swim across. It protects,
And is that something you have now, or that would
we
be,
had it illegally and we're looking to put it back in.
okay. So Amy was reading this correctly. I was reading this incorrectly.
Some of it, yes, some of it. I don't know how you guys work this late and being so hot in here. Yeah.
I know, you should have come last week. It was freezing in here.
I know. Hold
So-
on, bear with me for 1 second. I'm writing a new letter.
I'm sorry.
No, please go, actually. Okay, yeah, please.
So
Keith, Amy
Yes.
has her hand.
Go ahead, Amy. Sorry.
You're not aware of the square footage that's being asked for? Is that right?
We have it here. I don't
Okay.
know it off the top of my.
Because that phrase of already sort of permitted, you just said it, it's confusing.
Yeah.
It's very confusing. Those three words all put together don't make it clear at all. So in addition to asking for what they already have, they are also asking for a very large expansion. And I just want to make that very clear. It's very large and it's in T1 waters. And as you say, Keith, it's up to CRMC, but just be aware of what they're asking for, which is a lot. That's it. You
Terrific.
have all the information.
I mean, that's another reason why I think, it has to go to CRMC because they're going to be able to, whereas we read this and are just confused, they're going to have to.
It's not
know.
clear.
Yeah.
It is not presented clear.
They should know what is being presented and. what is-
They're asking for what they have already done. And they're asking for a very large expansion on top of that. And I just want you to know, be
Yeah.
clear about that.
All right, I have a draft. Something like this, Millie. Can you listen to this back? So you say you don't have to. You don't have to. As our community has reviewed this application, it is clear that there are concerns, blah, blah. These concerns have focused on two primary areas. One, the failure to seek CRMC permits or assent for previous expansion or expansions. And two, the potential for damage to Class 1 waters. Given these concerns, we urge CRMC to hold a hearing on this application.
Well, I think there's a third element too of expanding beyond what was allowed but unpermitted, which is the issue that Amy's bringing.
The potential for
Expansion even
the failure to seek CRMC permits or assent for a previous expansion or expansions.
right? And secondly, an additional expansion included, described in the application.
As long as I can remember, for what that's worth. Because we actually kept our first motorboat there. That's all.
We kept one there in 64.
Yeah.
So Keith, procedurally, how does it work? I mean,
Wait a minute, let him
oh, I'm sorry.
just add this and see how it's up.
Multitask there, Keith. Come on.
The potential for damage to class 1 waters as a result of the current application.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as far as like the Conservation Commission, if they send a letter on in, do they need to have someone there? And how does that work?
You know, if I had, I don't mean to be flippant, but it's the CRMC, who knows? But I would assume that they would take a letter like this and say, we need to reserve time at our hearing for the town of New Shoreham writ large.
Right.
So someone could go, you know, Amy could go and be speaking on behalf of the town council, or Nancy, or you know, whatever. I don't know whether that answers it, but I don't think that
Well,
they would.
our positions are
they would
different.
reserve time for the Conservation Commission, the Planning Board, and the town council.
Because what it read, the way it was written in there, it said that you had to appear, I believe.
Yeah,
on
so
a-
we'll get a
an
notice.
objection.
They'll set a hearing date. We'll get a notice of the hearing. At
And
that
then-
point, we can have the conversation about depending on how
Okay.
it's worded,
Agenda.
who we send and who
Yes.
speaks
Yeah.
on behalf of.
I want to be kind of respectful of the position.
Totally.
The Conservation
Yeah.
Commission has also, even if it isn't 100% lined up, you know, with this we're sending, that's all.
Right.
the deadline for correspondence on October?
Yeah,
Yes, that's why I was drafting away here.
yeah. And it can be
Good
emailed,
sense, Keith.
so it has to go out from the town, like tomorrow.
Can I have a motion to approve that letter? Is that okay, Millie?
Yeah, that's
And I
fine.
can
But
share, I can come.
you'll share that with
This
me.
with you tomorrow morning, unless you want to do it tonight. Would you?
Giant, yeah.
All right, motion's been made. Can
10:15.
I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed,
Aye.
no. The ayes have it.
Yeah.
All right. Amy. Thank you, guys.
Okay,
So item 11. I noticed that my wife is a signer of this lease,
yeah,
and I am going to recuse myself because I think you can make an argument that that is an appearance before us.
yes. Okay. So Amy, there is, oh,
I was kicking people's canes off. It's one of my joys.
don't take it out on my cane. So we have a letter that Millie and they're gonna work on and email tomorrow to CRMC. So, okay, we have the agreement and the lease for the medical center, the management agreement and the lease. Is this because it's up now? I mean,
Yes, so the agreement with Health Services expires December 31st.
okay.
So this is an opportunity for us to talk about anything the council may want to include in a new version before it comes before you for approval.
Should we take this and put it on our next meeting, or are you in a, so time to go through it, or?
There's time to go through it. We can do it tonight. You can think about it and we can re-agenda. Or I don't know if anyone had anything that was already on their mind.
Are there changes to this? Is this the one?
This
that-
is the existing. This is the
Okay.
current agreement
Gotcha.
with its amendments. So we'll obviously do codification and cleanup.
And the amendment is the one that we voted on just, what,
I
a
think
month
that
ago?
there are 3 amendments. The first extended the term.
And then one
This
for the
second
doctor's
added,
notes to be used.
the second added the new properties.
Yeah,
And the third talked about the use of the doctor's house.
right. I did think I thought under the original agreement that we got copies of the health services minutes delivered to the town every month. I don't see that, but that's the only thing. They pretty well mirrored what the,
Would you want to add that?
It's under on page 7B of the minutes. Provide the town with a copy of minutes of open meetings of the board of directors.
7.
Page 7, I
Yep.
think, B.
Yeah, under the open meetings, okay.
Are there things you wanted to add to this, Amy?
Not necessarily. I wanted to hear from the council first. But there's
As long as
there's
that's
nothing I'm
clear.
looking for.
I didn't have anything else.
I'm sorry, what'd you say, Amy?
There was nothing else, that I came to the table with.
Okay.
No. Does anybody want to make a motion to approve?
I don't think you need one yet. Again, I'm gonna sit down with them, but I wanted to bring anything that the council might have.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so
So-
we'll get it back if they have any changes.
Yes.
And if there's anything, we can reach out to you. and
Yep.
go
If
through
you
this.
think of anything in the meantime, you can let me know.
Okay, great. Keith? You can come- Keith. At least. Yeah, and for all those nights that we got out of here at 8:30.
I know.
I give up.
cold.
Oh, I know, yeah.
Was it?
All right. Where are we?
We had no changes. Amy's gonna take it to them. If they have any changes, it'll come back up. Oh, maybe that's good now.
Let's see. Management agreement between sewer district and water district, Amy?
So you have your joint meeting coming up
Yes.
on the 20th.
Should be a lot smoother than recent years.
I hope and expect.
Yes.
So, um, the management agreement is obviously up for discussion. The one thing that's not on the table, is that even if we did want to make any adjustments, we did miss the September 1st
Right.
deadline. And so
Yeah.
we've made better notes about that.
I was going to say, could we flag that for next year? Not because I have a burning urge to raise anything.
had it
but because
really well-
we ought to make a,
We had it well flagged for September 30th.
yes, exactly. Yeah.
We could ask for that. Yes, that'd be great.
Or just have a note that in our first week in September meeting, we should,
It can't be the first week in September meeting because you've already missed the deadline.
oh, our last week, and
Mid-August.
in an August meeting or something. Right, of course. I know. I know.
But that's really the only element.
Molly gets free water for her laundry. Great.
Unless anyone had anything else.
I do not. Other than, I hope the water district is adequately recognizing how many balls John Bruning has kept in the air for the last 18 months, 2 years. It is really astounding. And I try to tell him that every time I see him. So it now goes in one ear and out the other. But really, with the staff that they have there, what they're able to pull off in terms of this new capital project. I mean, the day-to-day running of the water company is more than a full-time job for the people that they have, for the staff that they have. And now they've done this doing the planning, finding the money, getting the construction done has just been really, I think, maybe it's because of where it is on the island or something like that, or,
And getting the cooperation of the state. to purchase
yes,
That property back.
developing years-long relationships with the USDA. I mean, it is an unbelievable thing that's been accomplished there.
Well, for an island this size,
Oh.
between both originally Gravy and now John, we have been blessed
Yes,
beyond.
yes, absolutely. All right, anything else here? Anything else for upcoming meetings other than the
The only-
goddamn thermostats?
Yeah. The only thing, and I don't know whether it be agenda or possibly in Amy's next report, just something on the medical center with the solar, because the public comment is a platform that doesn't give an opportunity for, and I think you can at the right time, Amy, just because it's
Yeah.
sometimes something's said enough time and weaves its way into a truth when necessarily always isn't.
Yeah.
We'll have a full report, including the results of our independent inspector who's already done their inspection and has provided feedback back to the contractor. And I expect to report that we'll be pretty close to wrapped up on any items that needed to be remedied.
Right. And I didn't doubt that it would be, I
really wanted to.
I know.
No, so did I.
Yeah.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Wait.
Oh, sorry.
I have two
Sorry.
things. That's okay.
Apologies.
Bill gets to do all the talking. So Cindy brought up the Taylor Swift tax. It's not called that, but whatever it's called.
Non-resident
And-
property tax.
Yes.
I'm trying to train people
Let's
because it doesn't just apply to Taylor Swift. And there will be some traction and we'll talk about that.
Okay, great. And then the other thing is, I don't know whether anybody else has any appetite for discussing it, but I liked Ken's idea about
I think we should.
discussing, not enacting, but discussing the possibility of some sort of parking sticker that would enable us to fund. I would even expand it beyond fireworks, but because that would be, but we listened to this whole thing about coastal resiliency. Maybe we could,
On my list of things that it should go.
like the beach. So in general, to fund beach projects.
Yeah, I'm not interested necessarily earmarking the funds, but definitely discussion around
Yes.
paid parking at the beach.
Yes.
Okay,
I
thank
have a
you.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I cut my ass hand.